Let's get
Dodgeball?
dodgeball, dodgeball.
Dodgeball? Dodgeball?
All right, we made it through it. I think there was the little tap of the drink.
I was trying so hard not to, like, there was so much focus putting my glass down. I was like, you could just wait 10 seconds until the intro is done. I was like, no.
It it's
Well,
amazing in our like how many times have we recorded this and none of us have thought to just mute our mics. Like none of us
oh
have
my
thought
God, that's such a good idea.
like we should probably do that at some point. But anyway, hey, welcome to Catching Out. It feels like it's been ages. I don't know about you, but it feels like it's been ages since we've had an episode.
What, like 3 weeks?
Yeah, that's like basically a month. It's been
A
ages.
lot's happened. Yeah,
A
I was
lot's
gonna say
happened.
three weeks feels like a long time in dodgeball terms. It's like
Yeah.
when everyone's like, "Oh, there's no dodgeball in February or something." And like, there's one thing of dodgeball in February. That's still a thing of dodgeball in February. That's only 3 weeks between things. You're
I mean,
fine.
there, there's
You'll
pl
live.
there's plenty of dodgeball going on in February this time. It's just not nationals.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but yeah, there might be some other competition going on, which is why everyone's distracted. But anyway, dodgeball. Um, have we got any just generic dodgeball updates? I don't know. I feel like we try and do this segment, but we're so poor at starting it. Like we don't have
Yeah,
any
I can
notes
never
on
think
like
of things.
um, Switzerland's graph.
Um,
I want to talk about Switzerland's graphics. Switzerland's graphics, top tier, top tier. Definitely works when you haven't got like a massive like system you got to do loads and loads of matches for. But if you
mhm.
haven't seen Switzerland's like Facebook page, they're sharing the results of the matches by um, they show the timeline of who's won what set during the match, and you can see where half time is, so you see what the half time score. It's a really good system, and yeah, I'd love to see more of that. But we have just
It's nice to get just sort of a quick overview of how a match actually happened, because the number of times on even like this podcast or in commentating that you have to be like, oh, the scoreline doesn't represent the match, and you're like, what does that actually mean? Like, how can a scoreline not represent a match? So to kind of see the way that it's evolved over time is quite a good way of visualizing that. And overall, actually, I wanted to give a shout out to the Swiss leagues. They're streaming every single match, I think, because they just play on one court. Like it's a small gym hall, so they stream every single match. There's commentating, I think, for every match as well. At least every one that I've listened into, there's always commentating in French. So good luck if you don't speak French. But if you do speak French, it's absolutely worth going and checking out. The quality of the leagues this year is actually really, really good. The women's league in particular, I think, has just like increased in level so much over the last year in Switzerland. So yeah, really, really recommend that if you're ever looking for yet more dodgeball to watch. That's another league that's doing well at streaming. I don't know if there are any other national leagues that are really streaming regularly. I don't think the Austrians stream their leagues
no,
very
I
much.
don't think
Yeah,
so. I
but
think Max
hopefully
has
that's
tried. But yeah, I
yeah,
don't know.
hopefully that's something that will just sort of change over the next few seasons in European dodgeball, because it would be really nice to just be able to, like, if you're sat around on a weekend where you don't have dodgeball, just be like, oh, there's the Italian league or the Dutch league or something like that.
I mean,
But for now, Switzerland.
whoever creates the first like web hosted streaming service where you could see like everyone's dodgeball, they just log in, they stream it up, and you just sign in and watch it. It would probably have a
Mm.
lot of fans. Probably wouldn't make a lot of money. Probably get a
No,
lot of fans though. You get a lot of appreciation from us. But
definitely,
yeah,
definitely something to look into.
yeah, find someone with a lot of money and time to burn. Um, Yeah, so Switzerland's underway. The French league is underway as well, I believe. And the Austrian league is also well underway. I don't know about the Italian league, I'll be brutally honest. I don't know if that starts in the new year.
I think
Um,
that starts in the new year. Yeah.
could be wrong.
The French have a junior league as well that's going on, which is quite
Ah,
exciting to see. I do know ages ago, someone, like, when I was talking about different opens in some Facebook group chat that were going on in Europe, then someone who runs one of those junior clubs was like, "When are they going to start a junior, open?" And I'm like, "Talk to the French. The French would probably be the ones who are going to run the first like international junior open. I'm sure that you could get a whole bunch, like an under 15s open, I'm sure is going to happen in the next few seasons. But yeah, the junior system in France is really, really good, it looks like. And it's
It'd
just
be
nice to see that they're developing that quite early.
it'd be really cool, hypothetically, right? Really cool, like ballsy idea here is if the EDF like help got getting involved and stuff, and there was basically a bunch of opens throughout Europe that EDF sponsored, helped put a name on or whatever, and said, look, it's organized by the local sport governing body of Dodgeball, or whoever wants to do it. So if it's, I don't know who organizes the Paris one, is it
The unicorns, the
the
gone.
yeah unicorn? So like stuff like that. So if the unicorns did it, or if British Dodgeball did it, or if Austrian Dodgeball, or if it was like the Ninjas or Nutcrackers or whoever was doing it, and it was just like this is the country's open, and then like
Mm.
obviously anyone can enter, any club level can enter. And then basically there's just like how we do the foam series this at the moment where it's like whoever wins the knockout stage you go over, you have a weekend of dodgeball, and then like whoever gets the most points from the series is then the European champion. Like
That would be very cool. If
that would
that,
be
I mean,
pretty
that's
sick.
long term
Long
blue sky
term,
thinking.
like
But
oh, honestly, that
But there are a couple opens like that. I mean, the Croatians ran an open earlier this year. I know the Swiss were briefly talking about running an open, but I don't know if that idea has now been shelved because the Paris Open is looking really international this year. That's going to be so much fun and also just really dumb to show up in Warwick eliminated gear and just be surrounded by all these incredible clubs with really serious, really good players, and then there's just Warwick eliminated there, just like with good players, but we're Warwick eliminated. I don't know how to explain that, like to anyone who doesn't know Warwick Eliminated. I don't know how to explain it beyond just look at our Instagram page and work it out.
that's probably the
Um,
best way to explain it. Yeah. And
yeah.
if you can understand how the voting occurs for how someone becomes captain as well, that probably also that also probably sort of sets the level of expectation for the club. You
Yeah.
know. But anyway, I think that's about it in terms of updates. I don't think there's anything else really.
W WDA World
No, don't talk
Dodgeball
about them.
Cup.
No, I
That's
mean,
that's ongoing.
I
Have the
guess
children done well? Do we know if the
oh,
children are
I
doing
don't know.
well?
I let's just hope they're not injured.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my main hope.
I mean, like on the positive side, they're in Egypt, like where it's -3 in Wigan or whatever. So I mean, they might be.
It's holiday.
It's a
Yeah.
holiday. It's warmer. But yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
thing's
I don't
happening
know.
over there. I,
That's
I,
happening. We're not allowed to talk about it because
I don't know. I was talking to Aldred about it, and because he's obviously shared like lots of people's opinions on it and stuff. And like,
mm,
to be honest, the sooner we can get everyone under one banner and then sort
yeah,
out the mess that is the rules, then we can go from there. But
yeah.
yeah, the sooner that happens, the better. But hey, that's updates. Shall we head on over to reviewing last league?
Yes,
All
yes,
right,
yes. Dodgeball on this
dodgeball.
Dodgeball podcast. What a
Yes,
revolutionary concept.
it's crazy to think. But hey, here we are. Uh, Women's League One, meet three. What a meet. Nearly had two fixtures on the show court. Only ended up having one in the end, but what a game to show because like sure that was like entertaining for everyone because what a result that was to watch. But yeah, so we had Wessex Wolves versus Leeds Owls on the show court that ended in a draw at 10-10. But actually some pretty close matches throughout the league. We got another draw. That's by the way, Spartans versus Derby Twos or Spartans Twos versus Derby Twos. That's Spartans' third draw now in the league. They've had a they've had a draw every single league meet, which is just, I mean, amazing consistency. Just I love it. Love it.
Is that the consistency you want though? Drawing. I mean, it's
You're
points at
not
the end of the day.
losing. You're
You're
not
not losing.
losing.
You're not losing, Spartans. Well done.
And it's 10-10. It's fine. I like, yeah, definitely
I
definitely
think that's
impressive.
that's a good
Definitely rated.
result.
Yeah. Um, that Honeybees versus Sheriff's game. I wish I got to see it, but what a result! Because
It was. Mm. Good
Uh,
match, very good match. I was crouched on the sidelines taking photos, and that was just a very, very nice match to watch. Just really good to, because the Honeybees haven't won a match yet. This was their first win of the season, and it's a very new Honeys squad. So for a lot of those players as well, it's their first win at National League. So that was just really nice to see. Everyone was so smiley on both sides. Like they're both such lovely teams, both those teams. Like I feel like most of the teams in League One are, but like Sheriffs and Honeybees just really, really friendly, both those teams. So really nice match to watch.
I've realised I've made a boo boo in the graphics because I didn't put the seconds
Have
next to
you?
Sheriff. Yeah, I didn't put the seconds next to Sheriffs,
That's
but
Sheriff ones.
Sheriff's
What
one.
do you
No,
mean?
Kath, don't come after me, please. I'm sorry. No, this is Sheriff's twos versus Bees twos, but yeah, no, I know it's a pretty new Bees team anyway because there were quite a few Muds players there who were making their debut, I believe. Were
Yes.
they? So
No. No,
no,
they played in the previous one. Yeah,
they may
it
have
was the
played in the
previous
previous one.
meet that they played in. But this was the first meet that they'd like played in where they really knew the squad. It was very rushed last time round, whereas this
Yeah.
time I feel like it was a little bit better integrated into the squad.
Yeah,
Um,
so great result for them and definitely a good match. And I'd like not that we want to talk about bees and leads the whole time, but like the bees and leads game, that was like it was one of those games when because I was there watching, taking photos, I honestly felt like bees deserved far more sets than they got. Like they
yes.
played a really solid game, and I don't quite know how Leeds won the sets, is my brutal, honest opinion. And I think
Yeah.
most of them went the full 3 minutes, right? And I think it was just a case of like every so often, like these had a few more players on the court, and it was literally one or two players.
Yeah, I was watching the footage back because I felt the same. I walked off that court being like, how the hell did we win that by like not how the hell did we win that? We expected to win it, no offense to the Honeys, but how did we win that 18-2? Like it felt really harsh as a scoreline on the Honeys. It felt like they should have won at least three more sets, I would say. But looking back at the footage, a lot of the time what would happen is that Honeys would be up by two players maybe with 30 seconds left, and they just wouldn't play defensively, and that's just a kind of that's an experience thing. So a lot of the time that it would be they'd just kind of not really realize what time was left, or maybe not really think about throwing a little bit further away from the players. And so then Leeds would get a catch because it's really good catching squad, and that would turn the game around. Or Leeds would get a single hit. They're just in those last 30 seconds, Leeds was better at putting up the last bit of energy to flip a game in the end. Whereas when Leeds were ahead in the last 30 seconds, Honeys didn't seem to be able to flip it. So it's about putting that last 10% of energy in the last 30 seconds that kind of swung it Leeds' way. But it does feel really unfair as a scoreline, and I do think Honeys massively deserve to have a few more points there. Good
Yeah.
match. Good
Yeah, I
match.
think it comes down to experience, to be honest, because I think a lot of that decision making later in the set came down to a few players just seeing an opportunity, distracted players on the opposite side, or a wayward throw and was just like, well, that's my catch, or that's
Yeah.
player looking to get a ball in off the sideline. Oh, okay, I'm just going to ping you and get you. Like it, it will definitely come for bees, but it was yeah, like I said, they probably deserve better. Um,
Yeah.
but another game I do want to talk about because it leads up into what we'll probably talk about as our main game that we'll discuss. But that Wessex Mavericks game was an
Mm.
awesome game to watch. For like Mavericks played really well to get a really strong lead. I think it was eight. It was like 8-2 at halftime, I think. Like Mavericks got a really strong lead. They just crumbled in the second half, and it was like the most like infuriating, frustrating thing to watch because it's like, as a Leeds perspective, it's like, come on, please beat them, please beat Wessex, please beat Wessex. But honestly, Hartlepool did like a really good job knowing how to deal with Wessex in the first half. It was just in the second half, I think like they just didn't pay attention at times in the second half in the sets, and like there was just a few throws that didn't need to be made, which were going really well in the first half, and then they sort of changed it up, I felt, in the second half, and it didn't really work. Whereas, fair play to Wessex for just, keeping on course and finding a way to dig it out in the second half. But yeah, it was a good game, and we know the Leeds played Mavericks in the first league meet, and I think there's one set difference between um, Leeds and Wessex in terms of how they played Mavericks, because it was a 14-8 win, I think, for Leeds in the first game. So yeah, great match, to be honest.
I have nothing to say on it. I was stuck in a car. I was late
Oh
to
yeah,
leave
you
because
were. I
footage
forgot
does
about
not
that.
exist.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Emily's
it was
car
a good
broke
game.
down.
It was a really good game. Yeah, I don't know if there was any, there wasn't any footage, I don't think, but yeah,
No, there's no footage of it.
it was a good game, and it was yeah, Hartlepool got off to a really good start, and Wessex just clawed it back in the second half. Same with like the Canterbury Mavericks one as well. That was pretty close throughout. It was sort of like sets went either way, but it was just a case of I think Mavericks knew how to again close out sets. There was smarter decisions in the last few seconds which made the difference, and I think that's to be expected from Mavericks because they've got a bunch of good players on them that are pretty experienced at this point, that can definitely do that. And I think Canterbury, while they may have been playing a while, they may not have been playing as a squad because this is like it's their first national league as a squad. Um, so yeah, but I think Canterbury have a lot to be proud of so far. I think they've been doing pretty solid for their first time out in what is actually a pretty competitive league.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd agree with that. I think I wasn't sure what to expect from Canterbury this year. Like you said, it's their first season in National League. They did do mixed, not mixed, regional last year, but that's technically a men's league what they were in last year regional. So it was if they had women playing for them, it was just because they could. So it's the first time that those women have all really played in a full squad this season. So really impressive. I think every result that comes out of Canterbury is impressive just through virtue of the fact that they're even there.
Yeah.
So really amazing to see them taking points off of people like Nighthawks, even if it's not a whole game that they took it off, a couple sets, that still goes a long way at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I mean that that double bill of Wessex versus Leeds and then Nighthawks versus White Tigers. Two great games to have on side by side. It was really quite
Yeah,
enjoyable. If you could bear and sit and watch one on one court and then one all the way down at the end because they swapped them around because of the
cross-eyed.
yeah, like
Really
super
cross-eyed.
cross-eyed. But yeah, yeah, Canterbury also they had a men's last year in League Three, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about the Nighthawks White Tigers game because I couldn't see any of it because I was a little bit glued to the Wessex Leeds match.
I don't have anything to say on the Nighthawks White
Cool.
Tigers one because I literally couldn't look at the court. I was playing on the other one.
So let's go on to that one. Let's go on to the first Women's League One game that was on British Dodgeball stream. Uh,
Yeah.
I guess first of all, how do we think that was getting it on stream? Was it a good stream? People, I don't know. Have you watched it back? Because I have.
I watched it back. I
Oh.
watched it in the car on the way back.
Honestly, I was driving back as well, and Frankie was sat in the back, and she was rewatching all the games in the back, and I'm like, yeah. To say that people who play dodgeball aren't addicted to dodgeball, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was a great stream. I think it was great to see Women's League One on show, because there are some really great games that are worth seeing, and there's a lot of games that mean a lot to the table because this was a big one, as well as a couple of the others that this league meet, but
Yeah, no,
yeah.
my hope is that like having that Women's League One match streamed might if some I know there are some critics of Women's League One, some people who are like, oh, it's not competitive. I do think a lot of those people haven't necessarily watched recent Women's League One matches or some of the more interesting ones. I'd say there are as many interesting matches in Women's League One as there are in any other league, if not more, to be honest. But that's controversial to say that last bit. So we'll keep it with just, there are as many interesting matches happening in this league as there are in any other one. And I think, watching it back, that was a really good match to show. A draw is kind of one of the most exciting ends that you can have in any dodgeball match, even if I feel like that's an interesting one because that's always in football, people like draw is the worst scoreline you can have at the end of it. It's so boring, but a draw in dodgeball is so exciting because it's just nail biting to get that last set. It really comes down to that final set, who's going to win it, whether they can pull it back to a draw, which
And
was
it
Wessex in
depends.
this case.
Yeah, it depends on how that draw was formed, right? Like,
Yeah.
have they come back late? Because there's another draw we'll talk about later that was quite impressive. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, this game, yeah, I mean, on the whole, like Women's League One thing, like I think like if you followed Women's League One like we have been doing because we were doing the podcast, you'd understand that there are storylines to follow. There are impressive things that are actually interesting to watch from someone who's not invested in the league. If you don't have a club in it, there are actually some interesting matches going on and some interesting results that are probably surprising because like you got Leeds returning for the first time, you got Wessex that have dropped down from um, the Super League, you've got White Tigers as well that have dropped down from the Super League that are trying to make a comeback and have lost some players to Super League teams as well. You got established clubs like Derby and Sheriffs and Bees and Spartans who've got their seconds in it. It's and Nighthawks were so close to getting promoted last year as well, and to see them sort of mid-table this year, like it's yeah, there's a lot going on in this league, and if you
There's a lot
like
going on.
even if you
It's
don't care about the level of dodgeball or whatever, like there is genuinely interesting matches to go follow and watch. But
Yeah. And at the end of the day, my stance is always it doesn't matter if it's not your cup of tea, you don't no one's gonna hold a gun to your head and say you have to watch Women's League One, you have to watch Men's League Two, those leagues that people kind of are a little bit more dismissive of. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be shown still. It might not be your thing, I don't like watching cricket. That doesn't mean that we need to stop televising cricket. Unfortunately.
yeah, I
So
was gonna say I
it's
disagree.
that
It
kind of
takes up
thing.
a lot of airtime. But yeah, focusing on the actual game, it was
Yes.
pretty back and forth to say the least. I don't think anyone won more than 2 sets in a row, if I'm mistaken.
No.
It was very
Yeah.
much every other set was a win. There were 2 set draws that happened throughout the match. So yeah, that happened. Leeds were up by 1 set at half time. I think
Yeah.
it was 6-4, I want to
Yeah.
say,
6-4 at halftime. Yeah.
something like that. Um, and yeah, Leeds were close to winning it, and a whistle mid ball
Literally
flight.
came down to the whistle. Oh, it's so annoying.
It's
It's
the
fine.
difference. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. We'll get them next time.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, it
No,
was a
it's
good game.
exciting. It's a very good match. I think the my main takeaway from it is that I mean a draw is fantastic. That makes for good viewing, but also it means that like assuming there are no upsets for the rest of the season, and that is a massive assumption to make in any league, but assuming there are no upsets, that really puts the title race, it puts a lot of weight on the title race for the next time that Wessex and Leeds meet, because that's so much pressure. That could mean that the title really comes down to that match. And then if that one ends in another draw, then it just comes down to set difference, which is a real possibility. So that
And
adds so much pressure to every game for the rest of the season for both Wessex and Leeds, because that is a real possibility that it will come down to set difference.
there is literally 1 set in it at the moment.
There is
Like
literally a set
literally
in
one
it.
set.
Leeds is top of the table.
And the only way I can like rationally go through because they haven't all played the same teams yet. I don't think Leeds have played White Tigers. I don't think. Um,
No.
so, but Wessex have, and I think that will be an interesting game. But then the closest thing that we have as a comparison is that Mavericks, Wessex and the Mavericks Leeds scoreline, because I think Mavericks are third in the table. I could be wrong. Um, but there's literally like, yeah, Leeds beat them 16-8, 14-8, and I think Wessex, yeah, they've just beaten them 12-8. So that 1 set, that's the difference. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, it's going to make the second half of the season so interesting. There's a
Yeah.
lot of matches still to play, and yeah, that top two is going to be interesting. But I think what that means is that like because Wessex and Leeds are kind of doing their own thing at the moment of not losing, um, that um, that leaves like the third, fourth, fifth race with like Derby, I think Hartlepool, and I think it's Nighthawks. I think it's like
Yeah.
Derby, Nighthawks, Mavericks, and Tigers. Like I think Tigers are pretty comfortably third, but that fourth, fifth,
Yeah.
sixth, like there's actually a lot to play for there. Like that mid-table to like finish in the top half. No one wants to say they finish in the bottom half of the table, but I think it's actually going to be a real struggle for some of these teams to like
Yeah.
actually.
Do you have the table graphic? Because we could
I
just
do.
look at
Should
that
we
right
just
now.
go on to
Switch to
the
that.
table? Here we go.
Uh,
There you go. So yeah,
yeah.
fourth, fifth, sixth. So Mavericks, Phantoms two, and Nighthawks in fourth, fifth, and sixth. Like Nighthawks were third last year.
Yeah, that's
Um,
mad. It's such a competitive league.
yeah,
Sorry,
it's
I'm just reading the
just
table.
it's really all the mess that's gone on, the absolute carnage. So Leeds finally at
Yeah,
the top, where they
yeah.
belong, um, up there with the one set difference over Wessex. Literally, they've conceded the same amount of sets, but
That's
Leeds have gained
insane.
one more. And luckily, it comes down to sets. If sets difference is the same, it comes down to sets four. So,
I'm so stressed looking at that table, especially because I'm not playing this weekend, so I can't do anything to help this weekend, and I'm just sort of like, oh, I've got really bad FOMO. I'm really stressed.
well,
Yeah,
we'll get onto the matches this weekend in a sec. But yeah, White Tigers have come back up to third. I think they dropped down because they lost to Wessex. That was it. And
yeah.
then Mavericks have now done the same, so they've now lost to Wessex and Leeds as well. Who have White Tigers lost to as well? Maybe they did play Leeds. I can't remember. Um, Someone's
All
gonna
my
have to
time.
like at us in the comments and tell us what's happened because we clearly don't know our own
Stress needs
leagues.
to hit you over the head for not knowing these things.
Yeah, yeah, that's my bad, guys. Um, yeah, other than that, yeah, it's just
Derby in fifth, Nighthawks sixth, Spartans down to seventh, but that's just switching
I
places with
mean,
Nighthawks, isn't
yeah, but
it?
it's like 88755. So that's
Yeah,
yeah, like it's a win. Like the difference between third and seventh is a win and a half.
yeah, that's crazy.
Like
That's absolutely crazy as a table.
yeah, it's what a league. And yeah, I still can't get over
Probably.
how many draws. Like Spartans two are three draws. Um,
It's so funny.
yeah. So there is plenty of reasons to get down and watch this league because who knows what's going to happen. And it is actually going to be really entertaining, whatever happens. And I think that's part of the fun of it is that whilst it's quite close and it's really tense, I think everyone's just looking to have a good time and have good fun
Mm.
when they're on court. So you know the energy is going to be high. You know the celebration is going to be wild. It is probably the most I was going to say most entertaining, most happiest league to go watch. Um,
Vibes.
yeah, good vibes. If like, because I think they play at the same time as Men's Super League, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part
So
of the
if
reason
you
is
if you
people
don't want to like
play
deal
fantasy.
with that mess and like you know guys getting angry at each other at the neutral zone, then this is much more enjoyable to watch. I would definitely say go watch this, and you definitely get a good time. So maybe plot part if you're unsure, park yourself between court two and three,
Yeah,
in the stands and watch them both and see which one you end up watching more. That'll be a good blind test. But yeah, let's go on to let's go on to the fixtures for this weekend.
completely unrelated
Ta-da!
note. I maintain that sheriff's twos should be called deputies. Like just seeing the honeys playing as sheriff's twos, it's like nah, it should be honeys playing as deputies. You need
With
more interesting names for second team.
I love
Moving swiftly on.
I love the whole like naming second teams thing. Like it is like surely like after the Phantom, should it not be like the Ghouls or the Poltergeists or
Yeah,
something like that? Like come on, guys. Like Spartans after like that, maybe the Gladiators. I don't know. Like
there's room there for like
there's room for
messing around
improvement.
with names.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but anyway,
Fixtures.
I'm just gonna call it out. Honeys have got a rough week.
Hmm.
Um, that's gonna be some testing times for them. On the other hand, it's like a perfect chance to go in. Hey, we never no not we know it's probably not going to go too well. Let's go play some dodgeball. Let's go have some fun, and that can often lead to the upsets because they just play free spirited, take opportunities when they can, and that can against Wessex I think as well. Like could definitely play to certain players certain advantage. So we'll see what happens with those two, but yeah, it could
Yeah.
be interesting.
There's two factors that are going to impact all the leagues, or most of the leagues, I would say. Which so I'm just going to say it in this one, and I'm not going to repeat this information ever again for any of the future leagues on this episode. But it affects all of them. That we've got Christmas soon, So some people might just not be going because they're already going back home for Christmas, or they're busy with Christmas plans, or they've just got lives outside of Dodgeball. But the second one is kind of related to that. University students will be going home for Christmas. Their term will have ended already. So depending on whether or not people go to university local to where they grow up, that might impact certain players in certain squads, especially in second squads or in Women's League One, where there are actually quite a lot of university students. It could have a pretty interesting impact. So curious to see how that will happen. What the squads will look like this weekend. It should be an interesting one.
Yeah, and that on, it's very cold at the moment. People are getting ill. You may have noticed there is no column. Um, Unfortunately,
Column's not here. You're coughing. I'm sniffling. Like
yeah, like
everyone's fine.
everyone will be okay. And also, some very boring people might prioritize some final that's happening on the Saturday, on the Sunday. Maybe, I don't know.
True.
Like, I don't know why you do that, to be honest. But hey, yeah. So other than that, yeah, a few good games. I think Wessex Nighthawks, that will be one to keep an eye on, just to see how Nighthawks do, to try and push themselves up the table. Um, and then also, I think Spartans versus Mavericks, as well as Phantoms versus Mavericks, I think are both key middle of the table clashes,
Yeah,
to keep
I'd
an eye
agree
on.
with that.
So court four is your part. Find a seat on court four and
All the way at the
watch it
end of the hall.
all the way at the end of the hall, and enjoy watching that. Um,
There's good seating actually for court four. I think that's the court that's got the best seating because you've got side court seating.
Court four is the best
And
to be like a group spectator.
yeah.
It's the most annoying court to ref if there's group spectators, but it's pretty good to watch and be able to cheer on from the sides, and yeah, support there. You really are heard on the court.
Every single word of abuse.
Abuse? No, we don't do abuse here. No. Support. So it's support. All right. Should we go on to our match to catch then?
Match to catch.
Match to catch.
Yeah.
All right. So our match to catch is Phantoms 2 versus Mavericks, and this is where I need to check our notes to see what the others have predicted.
Mm.
But yeah, so Mavs v Phantoms 2, middle of the table clash. I think did we say it was fourth and fifth? Also, yeah, fourth and fifth, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go straight away and give away Colin's prediction. If I can figure out my own work. Hey, week four. God, there's so many folders to go through for this stuff. There you go. So
Maverick.
Colin's back in the Mavs. How are you feeling about
Yeah.
this game?
I agree with Colm. I think Mavericks will take it. I think on a different week it might actually have be closer, but like I said, I think Derby might be one of the teams that's affected by just sort of the sheer quantity of people who could be ill on top of the people who might be going home. Because it's a second team, then as soon as you get people getting ill in the first team or having to drop out in the first team, they get moved up, and that impacts the second team. So I think that might kind of work against Derby's favour. Also, outside of that, I also think like generally it would probably be Mavericks that would win this match anyway. They've just seemed really good. That being said, Derby have been really. Derby twos are just exact copycats of their ones in their style of play, and so when you watch them, you're just like, this could honestly go either way, and I'm having a hard time predicting Derby. So yeah, it'll be an interesting match.
I mean, I'm going to back Mavericks, partly because I'm already so far behind you and Colin in the prediction race, but also I do actually think they're probably the more consistent team. Okay,
Yes.
touch wood, provided they don't get hit by the same COVID disaster that they had last year. Because I know
That's a
that
very good point.
the men's had a bit of a COVID issue. But providing everything goes okay, I think the Mavs stand a solid chance. Like, I still can't get over their game against Wessex. They should have won that. If they had stayed the course, they would definitely have won that. So I definitely think Mavericks have what it take to win this. I wouldn't like to put a number on it, but I will be fairly confident saying that.
I think
But
also the last match that I saw Derby Twos play was against Honeybees, and that was a really good match, which Derby did win. But it, I mean, it was the first time that Honeybees have brought like a very good competitive team. Like the first meet, it wasn't that competitive of a squad. The second meet, which was one they played against Derby, they did actually have a good squad. And it was a lot closer than anyone would have thought. You know, as far as like individual frames, it felt very close. I think Mavericks have that ability to play that style, but better than Bees did. Just sort of that quick style up the wings, and then controlled when they need it to be controlled, which is, like I said before, where Bees fall apart sometimes. So, assuming they read Derby correctly, which I think there's enough match footage to do that, then yeah, I would say Mavericks have the upper hand, but it could really go either way.
yeah, definitely. And some things to say on like our match to catch predictions and stuff like that. Last time, we ended up predicting two games that ended up becoming two draws.
Mm,
It was the Wessex game, and I can't remember the other one. Um, anyway, oh, it was the Men's League One MK versus Nighthawks.
oh, yeah,
That was a
yeah.
draw as well. So, um, some good games to go watch, guys. We're not too far off, like saying like there are some great games, and this is another one that Bevers is predicting as a draw, but he's slightly favouring Derby twos.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that one goes. But yeah, so that's those games or that game. This is where Nick then has to do.
I love listening to you trying to babble to fill the void while you do your little
I
graphics.
mean,
Like
it's
you don't have
more
time
that
here.
like
I
yeah,
can
you
babble.
can yeah, okay, go on.
I can fill the silence. I've already used my thought about what was it, sheriffs being deputies. I don't really have any further thoughts about second teams beyond that. That's my one fun thought from this week.
Well, this is where we really need to sort our get like some musics going for our
Mm.
predictions.
This is why we need Colin. He would be here, like, coming up with
Match to catch,
random songs
match to
about all the.
catch.
Exactly. Exactly.
So annoying. We love you, Colin. We miss you loads. I promise.
Yeah. How many times are we going to mention it in this episode?
I mean, yeah, he wishes he was here. So I can't find what I've done with the graphics.
Clearly.
um,
Women's
it's
Super League.
Women's Super League. Yeah.
I can do it off the top of my head. Women's Super League, the last two matches were absolutely insane. I was stuck commentating for way too long. There was so much referee time, stoppage time in that last match. All I wanted to do was go home, but also like the score lines were really interesting in both matches, and there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on. So I was very much torn as a commentator between the fact that I felt like death, but also some of the best dodgeball I've seen all year was happening in front of me, which is a bit of a rock and a hard place situation there.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do? Look after your own health or watch more dodgeball? I don't know.
Watch more dodgeball.
Watch more dodgeball, sure. Well, you got there eventually. We got the results in front of us. Um, yeah, I am trying to remember which games because it was Court 2 that was live streamed, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how the games went. Um,
So a couple very interesting ones there. I'd say one of the first ones, the one that I thought was going to be like the big headline of the day when it happened, was Bedford Eagles against Queens. In the sense of when I was watching it, I was like, how the hell is this happening the way it is? No offense to Queens, they also said the same thing. So it's a 13-9 scoreline in the end to Bedford Eagles. But I think going into that one, Queens had quite a rough day. They were playing against Spartans earlier in the day and then Bedford Eagles. So that's those two very tough teams. They lost 18-4 to Spartans earlier in the day. And I imagine they were going into this match against Bedford Eagles anticipating the same. It was really, really good play from Queen Bees. They were keeping on top of it. They were winning sets. I don't remember what the score was at half time, but it's a really good match to go back and watch because it's interesting. I wouldn't say that Queens have the better players on paper by any stretch of the imagination, but they were playing better than Beagles were for long stretches of that game. They just had their heads together, and importantly, they were having fun, which is really nice to see. And it's that thing that you see sometimes where just like if a team is having fun and they've kind of just sort of decided it's a write-off, and we'll see this same situation, I think, with your match against Bedford Eagles, Leeds in Men's League One later on. But when a team kind of writes off a match, sometimes they do a lot better than they would have if they'd taken that match seriously, because they just go in, they have fun, they're not stressed about the scoreboard, and they're just playing their best game, their personal best, and just having a lot of fun. 13-9, I mean, it genuinely could have ended in a draw or even a Queen's win, that match. Bedford pulled it back at the end, basically. So, that's quite a shock result, I would say. That's not
Well,
something
yeah,
we'd expect to see.
especially when you compare it to the Spartans Bees result earlier in the day.
Yeah, no, that's a really good result for Queen Bees, and one that I think Beagles are gonna probably walked away from that day feeling a little bit shell shocked and needing to review that footage to work out what went down with their players.
I mean that, or they would just be like, "We got the win." You know, at the end of the day, you can't fault
Mm,
you can't fault getting the 2 points at the end of the day. Like
I
it's a
don't think that's how those top teams think, I don't think that's how those top teams should think. I think if you win something by less than you thought you would, then it's worth wondering why you thought you were going to win it better,
yeah, that is
and
true.
what
That is true.
happened.
Yeah,
But they did win 14-6 against Storm 1, so that's, it was a day that they came out of it with 2 wins. It was a good day. It's just an interesting fixture for them, that second one.
yeah. I'm trying to remember if there were any others that were televised, that were streamed. Um,
Televised.
Televised, yeah. I wish we were there.
Yeah.
But I honestly can't remember any of these. I know there was some stuff that
Oh,
happened in the Spartans Phantoms game, but I can't remember
yeah.
what. I think it came down to the end where Phantoms realized that they were ahead enough at the end, and Spartans couldn't come back. Um,
I'm very happy to talk about the Phantoms derby
you keep going,
match.
because honestly, my notes have like all gone out of my head. This is why we should have
It'll
recorded like
switch
straight
places.
after. Like this is why we should have recorded straight after we'd watched them, because I'm like, oh, I've got stuff to talk about. I remember going on, yeah, but no, I don't remember.
When it gets to men's league, then I'll just be sat there dumbly nodding
Like,
while you say
yeah,
things.
okay, that
Um,
definitely happened.
yeah, 13-9. So the 2 matches right at the end, the ones where I was commentating Port 2 with Colin, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, the last one
The
was
last one was the 2 of us, so a catching out special there.
yeah.
So we were commentating the Derby versus Phantom, Derby versus Phantom, Derby versus Spartans match, and then also keeping an eye on the Sheriffs versus Storm 2's match, which was very, very close. Close win there by Sheriffs, which I think Storm 2 will be quite happy that it was that close. But no, the Phantoms versus Spartans. I don't know why it's really hard for me to not say Phantoms versus Derby. Derby versus Spartans match was very close for a lot of it, and then basically like Phantoms just started running away with it. And I said to you before we started this that I have like a couple things before each episode that I've got in mind. Really, the only one that I've got in mind for this one is this match, because in my commentating a lot of time, I referred to it as being like Spartans are really structured and Phantoms are really chaotic. And I feel like that's not the right choice of word. It's kind of my reflex word when talking about Derby, because that's how we used to talk about Derby when I was playing for Spartans. But it doesn't really do justice to what it is that they do well, which is when it comes down to a situation when, say, you've got 60-40% chance of success, so 60% chance of success, 40% chance of failure. A team like Spartans will look at that and think, I'm better off for my team alive. I'll wait until a better chance comes around. And so it's very structured, very organized. You wait until a high probability chance, high success chance comes along. Unless you have nothing else left to do and you're screwed. With Phantoms, I feel like they have a little bit of a lower risk threshold. They're like actually a higher risk threshold, as it were, where they're more willing to take that risk and they're more willing to gamble. They're still not taking stupid risks. They're not taking the risks where it's 40% chance of success and 60% chance of failure, but they're taking it when it's a little bit close to that line, which means sometimes watching the matches, it feels as if you watched a match, like when Phantoms lose a match, you watch them and you go, why do we think they're so good? They made a whole bunch of things here that didn't go their way, and they made really poor decision making. And when they do well, then you're like, oh my god, why didn't we think that they would do well in this match? Like they're really good players and they do so well. And it basically comes down to, on certain days those decisions will really work out for them, and on certain days it won't. But overwhelmingly across the entire season, it will work out for them more often than it doesn't work out for them, which means you end up with matches like this where, on paper, and I would say Spartans have the better team. They have more international players. It's very much, that pound for pound a better team. But Phantoms took the risks. They took those chances when they were there, and it paid off for them. And they were just very good at selecting those moments, and that works out well for them. I think that's really a credit to their coaching, that they're able to notice when something's, just a little bit on that line, but is more likely to go that way. They're like, yeah, I'll take that. Whereas other people might lose their cool and just not go for opportunities anymore just to stay alive, basically. It's much more of a team way of looking at a game. You're thinking, it doesn't matter if I go out now, my team will be able to bring me back in, or, something will happen. I keep having to adjust my headphones. But yeah, you're thinking like, it's not down to me. It doesn't matter if I go out, I'm not the most valuable person. It's the team that's the valuable asset here. Whereas with Spartans, with Bedford Eagles, with quite a lot of teams, the mentality is you are very valuable to a team, alive. Do everything you can to stay alive. Don't do silly risks. And that leads to some players being a bit overly cautious, I would say. So yeah, long story short, when I say Phantoms are chaotic, I don't mean that in an insulting way. I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean it in a very positive way. They do care for chaos. They choose chaos very, very well. And it just leads to a really good dynamic on court. They also just play individually different styles for each individual player, but it melds very well across the team instead of playing a team style, I would say. So it's a tricky one to try and work out a way of fighting against, because if you pick a style of dodgeball to fight against, you're only really going against two players at any given moment. So it makes it quite hard to do those overarching tactics against Phantoms. But yeah, really, really good match for them. Just fantastic. 13-9, I wouldn't have predicted that. I don't think many people would have predicted that going into that match, because we kind of turn our noses up at Phantoms sometimes a little bit unfairly, and potentially overhype Spartans. But they are a very, very, very good team, and they've beaten Spartans before. They beat them last year. I think that's what I said last episode, was I said Phantoms beat Spartans last year, so it's not a foregone conclusion that they could beat them again. But, and I regret the but now. Spartans can be beaten by Phantoms, and it seems to be their weak point. So, good match. Watch it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I need to rewatch it because, I remember it being like quite close and quite dramatic at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a rules thing that came up in it? I can't remember.
Time was stopped quite a few times for repping decisions, and there was an incident involving which ball hit which player, and then time being stopped too late, essentially, for that decision. It should have been stopped when the question first arose, because it became an issue of, I think it was Jen was maybe like looking around, wondering what had happened or something, and was trying to maybe sort of gesture that time should be paused. Someone was on the Derby side because a ball had been caught by Spartans, I believe.
So I think it was a 3-ball throw, right? And then one hit and one was caught, but it was like difficult to work out which one was caught. And then in the like trying to work out who had been caught, because the referees were saying one of you had been caught, we don't know which one, but one of you needs to go up, we know you've been caught. Derby then couldn't work out between the two of them who it was that had been caught, and in doing so, was it Lucy then threw a ball?
So Lucy then goes up and throws at Jen, because Jen's looking off to the side to be like, which one of us was it? And this is the interesting point, is looking back at the footage, it was Gintare's ball that was caught. It wasn't Jen's. There's no way that they could have known that on court. But the tricky thing is, when Lucy throws that ball and hits Jen, it kind of then makes it very easy for the rest to make the decision that they do make, which is, well, Jen's now out anyway. We're not sure whose ball it was. Maybe we'll just sort of let's clean slate it and make a decision that doesn't feel too unfair to either side. We'll say that a catch was made on this side, but the player that you hit out was the one who was caught. So it feels that's a decision that kind of leaves both teams feeling like, okay, we didn't lose out. We had part of that decision go our way. But realistically, it should have, looking back on the footage with the benefit of that camera angle and the benefit of slow motion, basically, then you can see that it's G's ball that's caught. But I don't know. Like, we don't know what the decision would have been made otherwise, and I don't think
Yeah, and like I think
it's tricky.
yeah, now it's coming back to me now. So I think like for me, the bit that's difficult is from a Spartans perspective. This was Spartans realizing they haven't got much time to bring this back. So
Yeah,
what Lucy did was like totally right. Like I haven't got much time. They're messing around. I'm gonna go take a hit.
yeah.
Makes sense. But like in terms of getting the best outcome for Spartans to then try and like go from there is probably have gone, look, catch was made and make a real big deal out of it and get the
Yeah,
refs stop the time. And the quicker you can make a big deal out of it's someone's not gone out, the quicker the refs are more likely to stop time and say, right, we need to figure this out because no one's
yeah.
gone off yet.
The
That being
tricky thing as
said,
well. Yeah,
it's like you can't guarantee that the refs are going to stop it in time because I think it was
yeah.
towards the end of the set, one ref might be looking at the clock because they're trying to make sure that they get the time right. Like it becomes difficult from a refereeing perspective. So it's a difficult one to manage. I personally don't know what I'd do in that situation. Probably like because I'm less of an aggressive person, would have probably have like stayed back and gone, look, this catch matters, and gone from there, and then try and like hit them out that way, rather
I'm an
than go,
aggressive player. I would have gone and hit them.
yeah,
I would have done the same thing as Lucy. So it's purely down to the player at that point, and it's tricky. It's tricky to say what the correct path as a player is in that situation, and it's also tricky to say what the correct thing for the refs is to do because yes, the refs should have maybe paused time, made the decision as soon as the confusion started to appear. Pause time, make a decision. The thing is, everyone complains so much about time being paused. Like that is one of the number one complaints that players have is they're like, you're pausing the time too much, you're breaking up the flow of the game. You need to let us actually play and just make a decisive action. The decisive action hadn't happened. So do you pause time? Well, you could just now make a decisive action and just choose to make a choice and say that player's out and let the game keep going and not break the flow. But then people might complain about it later because they'll be like, oh, but you didn't pause time. And then that's exactly what happened here. Time wasn't paused and it just led to confusion. Then they paused time later on. So the problem there is you're kind of backtracking on a decision that you'd already made. I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I personally would rather that the ref didn't pause time, but I also would rather that the players just knew who was out and make a decision as a player there. If no one's calling you out, just kind of, I don't know, decide it, walk off.
yeah.
Like, just
It's
decide
it's
it.
it's a difficult one because like yeah, there are incidents in which like the referee blowing pause like, oh, something complicated has just happened and we can't work it out instantly is a good
Mm,
thing, but sometimes it's a bad thing, especially when the counters are on and things like that. Like, it just yeah, if things have
yeah.
gone different way, I think like a prime example of that was the Northern Ireland men's final where the
Mhm.
like chaos happened in like literally the last second, and the referees like arguably did the right thing of stopping the game to work out what just happened because it's such an important moment. But on the other hand, it meant that a counter, like a player who thought they were out from Northern Ireland, was stepping off court. Like arguably Brett would have hit the counter. We don't know because he didn't throw the ball. The referee stopped
Yeah.
the time. Maybe they would have hit, and maybe it would have been a 1v1 in the end. But it didn't.
Yeah.
The referee
You don't
stopped the
know.
game. It was a 2v1. We don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
It as a referee, because of how many balls are flying around, it is almost impossible to always make the right decision. So I think the referees did you know the best they
Yeah.
could in the situation. It's one of those things of sometimes it's going to happen, and what would have really helped Spartans would not have been in that situation in the first place. Like if they,
Yeah.
arguably you play the game in front of you, and if you played a better game, then this wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't have been that stressed in the later stages of the matches. But I think just to close off
Yeah.
on this, like the one thing that I wanted to take away from it is kind of like what you said is that I personally thought Derby were a decent team, but I never really probably respected them as like a top three team or anything like that. And I think
Mm,
this has sort of shown me, and same with the men's. I think as a club in general, like to put a bit more respect on what they can do and how they can play as a club because they really can consistently get the results that they want. I think it's fairer to say that we've got to the point now where when they lose, it is more of an upset than when it's the other way around when they win. And actually, we probably should have said no. Fair enough. Derby had a we're in a good place to begin with. So
Yeah.
um, anyway, shall we go and see what the this means for the table?
Yes, we should.
All right. So that does mean Derby are now at the top after all that.
Switched around.
Switched
Yeah.
around. It was Spartans because of that game. Three teams at the top with 5 wins, and there's only Derby's draw that's keeping them ahead. It's kind of nuts. And also, seeing Valkyrie's that high as well. Like, I mean, Valkyrie's got a really big win. I think it was 22-2 or something like that they got against Storm 2 or something this week just gone. Like, damn, like,
Yeah.
they're playing really well and keeping themselves in the fight all the way to the end. So we'll have to see how Eagles do because after that double loss in that one meet, that's done so much damage to their chances.
Yeah.
And then Rangers like quietly sitting in fifth as well, much improved from last year where they finished eighth, just avoiding relegation at the end there. So
Yeah.
it's chaotic,
Oh,
but in a different way to last season.
it's a really interesting table. I have no way of knowing, predicting how it's going to look at the end of the season because, like, I could very easily see Spartans now taking a tumble energy-wise. They've got a few players out with injuries. Like, they could maybe start to tumble down the table a bit. I could also see Valkyries tumbling down the table. I could also see Storm tumbling up the table. I could see Sheriffs tumbling up the table. I could see Stafford tumbling up the table. Like, every one of these, I could see a version where this table just flips by the end of the season. I think it's unlikely, but it could happen. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's not. It's still reasonably close. It's not as close as I think it was maybe this time last season, but it feels like it's getting closer as the season goes on. That the sort of matches that there are more interesting upsets that have happened in the last two meets than the first meet. I think went pretty much as I thought it would go, whereas this last meet didn't go how I thought it was going to go at all in most matches. Um,
I
so
think
yeah, really interesting.
I think yeah, it's like there are definitely still upsets happening all the time, but there definitely seems to be like a top band and maybe a lower band that's forming in the table. Like that sort of Derby to Eagles, I'd say, are definitely up there, and then you got Rangers through to Sheriffs, where it's pretty close. Obviously only the one win between them. I think that that being said, anyone in that lower band can definitely beat someone in the
Yeah,
top band and just cause chaos. So whilst there
like
seems to be some
Storm
sort
drew
of
against Derby, and
yeah,
it's all just kind of
even though there seems to be like some sort of like like this separation that's starting to occur, I definitely think there's potential for enough upsets where it just all becomes a mess and we get into a similar situation as we were last year.
yeah.
Um, oh, so
I love
exciting!
I love this league so much.
I love all the leagues. Like they're just
I love
apart
dodgeball.
from men's league three, like men's league three, you can just go and like write your own story and everything's set out from the start. Like pretty much everyone knows where they're going to finish in men's league three by now. It's pretty much a done deal. Everyone else's table are a complete and utter hideous mess, and we love it.
Men's League 3, step it up.
Yeah, sort yourselves out. Right, this
If we look at
weekend's fixtures.
fixtures.
Um, Lovely morning slot for them. There's no men's league three to join them, so they are by themselves. So if you want to get down for a nice early start this Sunday, um, you've got, but you can watch both courts, not have to get distracted by other matches going on. Um, so yeah, easy day for watching. Um, that being said, some interesting games all around. I'll say that always, but personally, like
Every time.
the ones that I'm drawn to are EAV versus Spartans. I think will be a good game. I think where was the other one that I was looking at? Raptors Storm 2.
Yeah.
Like that's a big game. Um, I I'm gonna have to say that I think Storm 2 should win that game. But Raptors 2 are above them in the table and got that win over Bees. So who knows? But I'd
I
put my
think it
money on that
depends. I mean, Storm had their Christmas party, right? So maybe
2 weeks
let's
ago.
keep an eye out for COVID.
It was 2 weeks ago. they're
Was it
fine.
2 weeks ago?
They're
Oh,
fine. They're
did they
fine.
just have a normal social in the last few days? I feel like I've been seeing things from London people
I
a lot
know.
recently.
Yeah, I was.
Social bunch.
Yeah. They're a good bunch. So, watching the footy with some of them on Saturday. So
Mm.
yeah, but they seem healthy and fine. Touch wood. So I think yeah, they should be at full strength. Um,
I love trying to make predictions about outcomes based on the relative health of players. I think it's such a great way of trying to do dodgeball predictions.
I mean, like, there's so much that goes into how strong a team are. Like, it's how well they're gelling as a team in general. Um,
Mhm.
what play style does their play style match up against the opposition? Does the people in their squad like aid the play style that they need to play to be matched up against their opposition? And then like if they have star players, are they fit and able to play? Like, and that's just some of the things that impact it.
Yeah.
It
I think Raptors might take that match, the Raptors Storm one. I honestly think like it'll be close, but I think it could end up being Raptors. That's not our match to catch prediction though,
No, I know. I was
so
gonna say, shall we just have
this
our
doesn't
own
count
little?
towards the tally.
Shall we have our own little match to catch prediction on the side here, where we're just like, yeah, so I'm gonna go Storm, you're gonna go Raptors. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. Other than that, like any other, I mean, Queen Bees against Storm 2 could be interesting.
That's
Uh,
that's one that they have to really, if they want to stay in contention to not be relegated, that's a match that needs to be won by either side.
yeah,
So
seeing how Bees have won their first two games and they've lost everything since, am I right?
yes,
And that includes losing to Raptors. So yeah,
yeah,
if they want to keep their hopes alive of staying in the Super League, then they will need to clutch a dub. Um,
yeah. That is a sentence. Yeah,
clutch a dub. Yep.
that's a dub.
But
Jesus.
I think our match to catch is Derby Rangers. Am I right? Or
Yeah,
am I chatting? Shall we
it's
just go?
either Derby Rangers or Spartans Valkyries, but I think
Shall
it's
we just
Derby Rangers
shall we just
because
go
we
for?
don't like Spartans anymore.
Should we go for
It's Derby
Big
Mavericks.
Mavericks? Yeah, no, it's definitely not that. Nick needs to sort it out. Women's Super League predictions. You know what?
I think
Completely wrong.
I.
It's Raptors Storm.
It's Raptors Storm.
Storm 2.
Right, we've already done this segment.
Yeah, we've already done this. That's great. Well, this
Oh,
makes it
I
like
was
this.
so sure that it was
I feel,
the other one.
you can tell like
Oh,
how not with it we are because like we discussed this literally hours ago. Um,
fuck.
so on that note,
Okay,
Nick's definitely going with Storm. I am doubling down on that.
I'm going with Raptors. I think
And
we can speed through this
shall we
segment
just
then.
yeah, just let's catch up a little bit on the. We're definitely behind on schedule anyway, so that's a Raptors for Zoe. Um, Now Nick needs to figure out what.
Why are we allowed to run a podcast?
I don't think there's rules against who can and can't, to be honest. But
Well, it's shit like this where like when people come up to people to you specifically, I don't really get this, but I've heard you and Colin talk about this experience of having people come up to you and be like, you said something wrong on the podcast. You were mean about us you said bad things. No one says this about me because I'm perfect.
you're
But
wonderful.
I never make a wrong prediction except for the ones that I did do wrong. But when people do that, I'm just like, what do you expect? Like, who gave us the authority to do this? Nobody. We don't know what we're talking about. Am I the only one who said Raptors?
You are the only person who said
Oh.
Raptors. This could either be a great opportunity for us to catch up to you, or you're gonna like storm ahead with it. So, shall I give a quick summary of where we're at on in terms of predictions?
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
we've gone through this super quick. So, um, we've done 3 weeks of predictions, and we've done I think it's what 2 weeks of 7 predictions and 1 week of 6 predictions.
Yeah.
Because of the men's league 4 being out of sync. Um,
20.
so drum roll please. In last place with wait 2 sevens plus 6 is 20, right?
20.
Okay, out of 20,
Yeah.
right? We have Bevers on 9. Bevers' rating system
Officially
is
worse
than
than
flipping
sheer
a coin.
chance.
Yeah. So we love you, Bevers, and we love your predictions, and this is why we want to have them.
Oh,
Um, Proving that they are better than flipping a coin is on 11 out of 20. Nick, I'm very proud of that.
well done.
Next up on 13 out of 20 is Colin and Zoe, just proving that she can't put a foot wrong with predictions. 16 out of 20. That's above a 75% success rate. That's pretty damn good.
Pretty fucking good. Yeah.
Like,
I'm
fair
I'm
play.
really worried about this Raptors prediction now though, because it's absolutely going to screw me in the scoreboard if they let me down. But I do genuinely think they could win this. No offense to Storm 2. I think Storm 2 are a fantastic team, but I think Raptors just are surprising in a lot of ways, and I don't know. I can see it going the Raptors' way. I don't know why.
I think the thing for me is that Raptors have a lot of individual talent on their team, and
Yes.
they do play in a very unique sort of play style. I think I don't really know how to describe it because they can do like structured throwing plays when they want, but then they have like Alex who can just basically, if you've thrown any ball at her, even if it's three, can probably catch two of them at the same time, which is
Yep.
ridiculously scary. Um, but then they have other players that are just they're really difficult to hit. They're good dodgers. They're quick around the
Yep.
court. Um, so honestly it
A lot of
depends.
really good catches, a lot of really quick runners. Like Manon's really fast up court. Alex is very fast up court as well. Not to harp on about how good Alex is, but she's very, very good as a winger. So the fact that she's made like we think of her as a catcher and she's really a wing player is
Yeah.
that's interesting in itself. Like that's not what you're meant to be doing on that wing. But no, it's a really interesting team. I think Raptors are one of those teams where if they start to go up, they just hit this stride, like they're catching everything suddenly. They're just completely unstoppable. Storm are a little bit more consistent and they just kind of get on with it. Um, so it's a matter of how early that first catch that they give away to Raptors, because there will be one that they give away, how early that comes in the game, I would say kind of defines the scoreline for me. And also which players show up, because
Yeah.
it's
No,
a
I think,
Storm 2, so
but
you
yeah,
never
I
know who
think
might get promoted.
Storm 2 have like a pretty like we've said this every time we've seen their team sheet, a pretty solid team, a team that are pretty like used to each other by this point. Like it's not changed massively since when they were in League One, and they pulled out some like janky wins in League One last time, but like well deserved. And I definitely think that they've got that ability to. I think they're just a solid team, and it's whether or not the sort of chaos random skill factor of Raptors can break down like the cohesiveness of Storm 2. That being said, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get around to watching Storm 2 much this season, so I could be talking about my ass. So anyway, moving on, we'll head on to our next
The
league,
men.
the men. So
This
many
should
men.
go faster because I just chat so much. I go on monologues. I've realized this listening back to the podcast. I just monologue. Whereas with men's league, I'm very happy to sit here and be like, I know fuck all. I know some stuff. Clearly, I'm getting my predictions right, but I don't know why.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just like absolutely blank. I did watch all of these like 2 weeks ago. Like I watched all the stream matches. Um, but yeah, bees just looked really strong in all their games. I don't really have much to say on that. I think they're surprising me at how consistently strong they are. Um,
Mm.
I do have something to say about one game, which is Storm Rangers. What a bloody match that was! That was a great match to watch. Fair play, Storm.
That was
I
a
know,
very good man.
I know Rangers. Tamas wasn't playing because he was injured, but he came on at the end. Unfortunately, couldn't do enough to bring it back for them. But like Storm just looked like so dominant and like just Rangers when they had their like it was their gear was going and like everything was just ticking over. That's when they could just like cruise ahead and like win a set and it was fine. But like
Mm.
Storm were just a little bit too good at just like knocking Rangers off their pace, and then Rangers just couldn't
Yeah.
like deal with it and get back and like do the stuff that they're really good at, like making a shed load of catches when they needed to, or having each other's backs on counters. when they needed
Yeah.
to. They just didn't have Storm were just like, right, okay, we'll go into this, we'll take the trades and come out better. Like, and it just worked for them. Like it
Yeah.
was horrible from a
Rangers
Rangers perspective, but beautiful from a Storm perspective.
Rangers across the board are an incredibly emotional club. I think is the best way of describing them, and that they do that to their benefit. They use it very well in the sense of they're always there to support each other. Like I guarantee, despite the fact that Women's Super League is the morning session this coming week, and there won't be any men's matches going on at the same time, there will still be a whole bunch of Rangers men there just there to support the girls. They're a very, very good club at supporting each other, and they know that they need to do that because they know that all their players are really, really emotional and really energetic. So as soon as they start going up, they just soar, like you were saying. Storm managed to just kind of keep structured and keep their heads cool, which means that as soon as they manage to get a chink in, in the Rangers' armor there, then suddenly Rangers are like stumbling a little bit, and Storm can just go with that and roll with it. It's the right thing to do against a team that's that. If you can just kind of keep your own pace and keep going at your own speed, despite the fact that there is a wall of teal that is screaming at you, that's really that's quite good for Storm. That shows a lot about their mental stability. Not stability. Oh my god, the mental health of Storm is not bad. No, the sort of mental strength. That's the term I was looking
Yeah,
for, not
okay.
stability.
I mean, I just love how you're just like, oh yeah, Rangers are like a really emotional club, and I'm like the implication that every other club is just like cold-hearted,
It's
unemotive.
like
Just like, oh no, they got hurt. What a shame. Like,
you you know what I mean. Like they're
I know what you
so
mean. Yeah.
loud.
Yes, I know what you mean. I've refed and played against Rangers. I know what it's like.
Yeah,
They definitely they were playing their boombox at the end. They had their speaker blasting and playing all
yeah,
sorts. So, and they do definitely turn up with the energy
yeah,
as well. But like yeah,
absolutely.
like fair play to Storm. Absolutely cracking turnout from them. To to beat Rangers there, and great for their like just great day for Storm really. Like even against Phantoms, like Phantoms were playing so well. They played really well against Bees, and then Storm to come out and beat Phantoms as well. Like I don't know if Phantoms were just like drained after their game against Bees, but you'd hope not. They're a pretty fit team, and I know that they've worked really hard over the summer on that. And you could see like they're starting a few matches. They like the fact until last league meet they were undefeated, and even then it
Mm.
took like a last second set against Rangers to pull that away. Um, Derby are like honestly a really good team, and the way that they played against Bees surprised me. They played better than I expected them to because I thought Bees would somewhat walk it, but Bees played really well. It was just a really competitive match all the way through, and then Storm to then one up Bees, although I don't know how it can be 17-10 because that's physically
I
impossible.
was waiting for you to finish
But
speaking so I could be like, I'm pretty sure that's an 11-17, not a 10-17
yeah,
match.
but like yeah,
Um,
it's a good result for Storm. Like good day all around for them. Like fair play, lads.
yeah.
Keep
Did
it going.
you catch Meteors versus Silverbacks? Because that's quite a nice scoreline for Silverbacks, not gonna lie.
I didn't, but I did kind of like keep an eye on the other Silverbacks game because that was our match to catch with Sheriffs v Silverbacks in. My word, was that ended up being one-sided. Um,
Said it would.
like fair play, Sheriffs. I honestly, yeah, I got that one wrong. My bad. Big win for them. Um,
Yeah. No, massive for Sheriff stat. But that was always going to be the case. That's what I said last time. Either one of those teams was going to start winning sets and then they were just never going to stop. And it turned out Sheriffs are the ones who started winning sets and didn't give up. So 21-5. Pretty
yep,
pretty good scoreline that.
pretty not too
14-12
shabby.
as well.
Yeah,
The
14-12 against
14-12 at the
Spartans.
bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that was a really good result for Sheriffs. I think like for this, they like a really good day for their set difference. Like even if they didn't get two wins, really good day for your set difference there, Sheriffs. Probably needed in this league to be honest. Is like get what you can. I don't know. I can't remember. I think Sheriffs pulled that one back, wasn't it? I think Spartans had that,
Yeah.
and
They
then
started climbing back.
yeah, Sheriffs started climbing back, which was good to see from a Sheriff's point of view, knowing that they needed to well, knowing what they need to do in this league. I think
Yeah.
they've been in this league long enough to know what they need to do to stay up. Um, But yeah, good
Should we
to
look at
look
the
at them.
table?
Yeah, seeing as I've
Talk
like
of
completely
staying up.
blanked on everything else, really bloody helpful. Table, here we go. What's changed? Oh yeah, Derby just tumble down the table, and then everyone else makes gains on them.
Yeah,
That is rough one for Derby.
yeah,
Especially when they played so well as well. Like, yeah, but that's what they're newly promoted, and that's what you got to face in this league.
yeah,
Derby and Silverback still up above Storm 2 and Wessex there, so showing that they definitely belong in the Super League. I mean, the gap between Phantom and Silverback is a decent one now.
yeah,
Phantoms have a little bit of room. They don't want to keep this losing streak going though. They'll want to bounce back. We'll see how they
yeah,
do this weekend. But look at Killer Bees up there, man. It like we when the season started, I thought the top three would have been Rangers, Spartans, and Meteors, and I was fairly confident in saying Rangers were gonna edge them out. And my gosh, have I been proved wrong? And boy, did I underestimate Bees and Storm. Like, jeez, like wow. I don't. I yeah. Also done something wrong in the table there with the fact that it's win four wins and two losses for Bees, and they've still got 10 points. I'll have to double check that one. Um, but yeah, just wow, quite an impressive season for both of them so far. I feel like what's happened is like they were the mid-table last season, and I feel like they still kind of are, but they've just like upped their game enough that the guys
yeah,
above them just haven't, and
yeah.
that's why they've switched
It's
places.
getting closer.
Yeah, it's getting closer, and that's why they've like sort of switched places. I don't feel like that's the re like I don't feel like it's a case of yeah, like there's
I
a
don't think
massive
Rangers have
difference
got
between
worse.
yeah.
Like Rangers are just as good as they were last season. They're really, really impressive. It's just everyone else is kind of catching up as well, and it's making it very messy in that whole section. I mean, everyone basically from Meteors down to Phantoms, I would say you can shuffle that however you want, and I would believe it.
Yeah, so I've just checked. It is 5 wins for bees, not 4 wins.
Nice.
So yeah, they are up there, equal on points. They just need a set difference to bring it back. But yeah, and three teams all on six, with 3 wins and 3 losses. So yeah,
Yeah.
doing it the conventional way, rather than what is it, 2 wins and two draws and a loss, or whatever it is you can get six on. That some other teams have got to get six. Yeah, I think it's 2 wins, two wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses also equals six. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and there's a few teams in other leagues that have done that. But yeah, anyway, on to the fixtures this weekend. Um, I'm sure these are going to be streamed. Don't know which ones yet. Keep an eye on British Dodgeball. Mr. Such will post accordingly, I believe. So yeah, just keep an eye out. They will be streamed somewhere. So yeah, keep your eye out on a Dodgeball notice board. Um, any matches that you're looking forward to this weekend?
I mean, having just said that you can shuffle pretty much anyone in those top seven, and I believe you can shuffle any match out of those top seven, and I'd have to say it's a good match. Like Bees versus Spartans, that'll be fun. Meteors versus Derby, that'll be fun. Sheriffs against Storm 1, that'll be really fun. I think Storm 2 against Wessex is also going to be a really good one, just in the sense of I don't think either of those teams have had a win yet this season, so that's a fun match for both of them. Derby against Spartans, like all of them. I just have to read out the list, and there's an interesting match. I don't know if any of them really stand head and shoulders above the rest.
I feel like
I
Sheriff's
mean,
v Storm's a
Storm
big
versus
one.
Storm is potentially the least interesting match, and it's still a Storm derby, which is kind of fun. Just conceptually fun. Like we know how that's going to end, but it's funny to watch. Um,
Yeah, I think that's like during the start of the World Cup final. So they're just like
yeah.
I imagine they should like just walk on court and be like, right, okay, if one person just line faults and then everyone else just like sits in the middle in the neutral zone with a little phone. Um, yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it? But yeah, no, I think the Sheriffs v Storm game is going to be quite a big match into like sort of working out where those two teams are because I think the results Sheriff showed last league meet still surprised me. I genuinely didn't see that result coming from Sheriffs, like such a big win over Silverbacks, and then like keeping it so close to Spartans. Um, that looks really promising for Sheriffs, whereas like Storm actually has the results to back up their ability and how well they've been playing this season. So it could be that like Storms are the one that have like consistently shown like good results, whereas Sheriffs are the ones that have shown promise. So it's like the difference between can Sheriffs pull through and show that they can fight with the top, or
Yeah,
is Storm like actually just better and
yeah,
can hold it? And I think that's going to be a really interesting game to see how that pans out for both of them and their seasons respectively. Um,
agreed. Yeah,
but otherwise, yeah, like you say, like these Spartans, big game, top three all on the same points. Can't neither of them can afford a loss there. Meteors v Derby, we've seen how impressive Derby have been against the top half of the table, so you'd expect them to come out fighting in that one. And then they've got Spartans in the. I mean, what a they've got the opposite of what Rangers had in the first league meet.
yeah,
It'll be interesting to see then if Rangers like over like I think they've already gone past Phantoms because of set difference, but if they
yeah.
jump even higher as a result because of what happens, like I think that'll be an interesting one to see how Phantoms do against those two top squads. Um, whereas yeah, Rangers have Silverbacks and Wessex, so that could be one would assume good set difference matches for them, but I mean you can't really say anything's guaranteed in this league.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Welcome to an episode of Nick and Zoe assuming they know something about dodgeball and not knowing anything at all. Anyone who thinks like or takes what we say seriously, like we're just having a laugh. We're having a
We
guess.
don't even know what our own match to catch is. Like,
I mean, yeah,
we don't know
exactly.
anything.
We're just like we think this will be a good idea to go watch, and we like talking about dodgeball. And if it gets more people talking about dodgeball, then great. But
I
yeah.
think they'll all be good matches. I think the real winner
Oh,
is the
you
spectator.
boring person.
I think the real winner is Storm 2 beating Storm 1. That would be my ideal scoreline from that match. I think that
Yeah,
would be the best result from the day.
yeah.
I want that to happen.
Big up London. Big up London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the match to catch? I genuinely don't
What is
remember
it?
which one
What
it
is
is.
match card? Oh, I need to set up the graphics, don't I? You and I are going to find out together.
Exciting!
Match to catch. Match to catch. It is bees
Be Storm.
versus
It's not.
bees. Bees versus storm? No, I don't think it's bees versus storm.
I
Can't be
don't.
bees
I don't think
versus.
it's Be Storm.
I think it's bees versus Spartans, right?
But,
um. Geez, yeah, I'm not going to go first. You can go first.
uh,
I mean,
I don't know.
I can do Bevers's prediction first if you want.
Yeah, let's do Bevis'
Let's
prediction first. It
see.
won't influence my overall decision, but
Definitely wouldn't. Bevers's
I mean, I
prediction.
imagine his prediction will be Spartans, right?
Well, you never know. Don't put words into his mouth. I mean, who knows? But yeah, Spartans.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty easy to see. Yeah,
and I
I think
mean, it's not a surprise then that Colin's prediction is bees.
yeah,
So
I think it's an interesting one because Spartans are higher in the table and were last year as well. Overall the better team. But then it comes down to A, are they the best team on the meet? And B, are they the best team in this matchup, like tactically? Because I do know Bees have beaten Spartans before. They do know how to beat them. Um, Depends on the players that show up. Robbie won't be there for Bees, for example, so that has an impact. But there's so much talent in the Bees side, like they just bring up someone else instead. It's fine. Um, Same with the Spartans. Like it doesn't really matter who they drop; they can just replace them with another elite player. It's fine. So I really don't know who to predict. I want to say Spartans because I think that's the easy option. So I might say Spartans just because statistically. Mm, What are you going to do, Nick? I'm not going to
I,
put mine down on paper yet. What are you
oh,
doing?
man, that's not fair. I'm like literally on your like graphics, so I can change it, and I thought, oh, you ruined it. Um, so okay, my
I might
logic,
toss a coin.
my logic here, and this is my thinking, and this is why it's hard for me, is that Spartans had a slightly weaker team last league meet. They had a few injuries out. They are getting a few, not all of them, back this week, I believe, for this weekend. Now we know the Bees versus Sheriff's result, and I think Bees won that by 1 or 2 sets. It was fairly close, if I remember, but Bees won it, and obviously Spartans beat Sheriffs by 1 set. So do we think that Bees with their strength is, or Spartans with their renewed strength is 3 sets better than they, or 2 or 3 sets better than they beat Sheriffs last time? That's the quandary. I think this could genuinely be a draw. Like,
I was literally in my brain, I was like, it's going to be really, really close. It's going to be a draw. We don't believe in stating in our predictions that it's going to be a draw. So then the question now becomes, which team do you think is more likely to shit the bed in the last minute?
I mean, history says Bees,
History says B.
but like, so this is the other thing as well,
But
right? Like we didn't necessarily fully believe in our first match of catch was Storm versus Bees, right? And we thought that was going to be a good mid-table clash. And you look at where they are in the table, it made sense. But like Bees, like they won that
yeah,
pretty comfortably. So I think Bees have like just exceeded my expectations in every game so far. They've only lost to Rangers. Now I don't think they've played Meteors yet either. So we're really gonna see how that plays out when they start playing those two teams. Oh, it's so difficult.
so hard. I'm not kidding. I might just toss a coin right now.
Um,
That's not a coin, it's a biscuit, but we're gonna work with it. Bees.
you're gonna go V's, okay. That doesn't help me.
Mm. I do think I was kind of probably gonna go with bees anyway, but that helps. Um, I do think that it comes down to who's going to shit the bed, and both teams have some players don't that weren't previously in the ones like last season, and I think that's an interesting dynamic when you've recently been promoted, as it were. You've recently been moved into that squad, and you're trying to prove your worth. That can sometimes lead a little bit more towards bed shittery, just because you've got so much to prove. So you kind of like, oh god, I've got to do something. Like I've got to have my hero moment, and then you just fuck it up.
I
Um,
I
but
hope
since
that's a
both
technical
of them have
term.
that, bed shittery is the official
Bad
term for
chisery
that,
is the
yeah.
fish term, yeah. Love it.
Um, so yeah, so I think either one of them could end up doing that, which just makes it impossible to predict. But toss of a coin, bees.
Yeah, the thing was is I was really hoping you choose Spartans so I could confidently choose bees. But then I
Oh, you
realized,
bastard.
but then I was like, well, given that was my logic, I'm still gonna choose bees anyway, right? That makes more sense.
Yeah,
So, uh, I honestly think that bees have exceeded my expectations so far, and that Sheriff's result from Spartans kind of concerns me. Um,
yeah,
and like you sort of look into the play style of the two teams as well, and I'm trying to work out suits what. And I think bees are a little bit more flexible in their play style than Spartans, which is why Spartans do so well against Meteors, right? But like
yeah,
against other teams that just like to be a little bit gung ho at times, like
yeah,
Spartans can play that way, but like I think they are just so not used to playing that way at times that they are
yeah,
drawn into making decisions that feel instinctively correct, but in the grand scheme of how the set plays out, probably not the right thing to do.
yeah.
Um, I think that maybe favors bees. Also, bees have just had the flukiest catches in the last few meets. Like some of the random shit I've seen them like pull off. I'm
God
like,
is on bees' side.
you know what? Like Manchester are having a moment. Let's just give it to them. So that's my logic. I am going to be confidently going for bees.
Yeah. Okay. I'm less confidently going for these, but I will go for these. While you're changing the graphics, the other thought that I just had was because you said, that Spartans Sheriffs thing is a little bit of a concern factor for you. And to me, yes, obviously that's something to be worried about. But Spartans will also have come away from that scoreline being like, "Ooh, that was something. What happened there?" And they've got really, really, really good coaching staff. Like their focus on coaching in Spartans is really high. So I think they'll have looked at that and really unpicked what's happened, and they might go into this meet refreshed with a new idea of how to deal with those situations, and might actually be more polished as a result, and might be a stronger team. That being said, they might also just be overthinking everything, and therefore just not play confidently. Like, there's so much of dodgeball comes down to just sheer confidence and just you know backing yourself. And if you've recently had a result that you didn't think was the result you wanted, and you've now had to spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks analyzing that result exactly to find out what went wrong, you're in that negative headspace. You're thinking, we've fucked up before, let's not fuck up again, instead of let's go in and do our best and fuck up a bunch of people. So interesting to see what happens with that match.
Yeah, no, I'll. It's gonna be a curious one. Okay, now we're on to Men's League One. Do you remember what happened this week in Men's
No.
League One? Not at all. Well, there were two draws, and one of them was our match to catch. And honestly,
Yeah.
I was watching that game on in the stands watching MK versus Nighthawks, and honestly, it was the most even game I've ever watched in dodgeball. Like, it wasn't like one team got massively ahead or anything like that. It just felt like MK knew how to deal with Nighthawks at times. Like, I felt like Nighthawks probably deserved the win, but MK just knew how to hang in it, and because they knew how to hang in it, dodgeball rewards it when you can clinch a set every so often. It doesn't matter what happened last set. If you got absolutely obliterated in the last set, who cares? You've got the next set, and if you then spend ages winning that set, doesn't really matter. As long as you get the points in the end, it works out. And I feel like that's just how the MK game and Nighthawks game played out. They're such different play styles, in my opinion. Like, MK have a few big arms that they can really use, and Nighthawks are just frustratingly quick around court, and they're really quick callers, and they love to throw unnecessary counters just to see if it comes off. Um, and yeah, really get in your head because they're just constantly putting pressure on you. Um, and yeah, MK seem to have been able to hold on for that draw. So fair play. For how
You're allowed to talk about Leeds and Beagles
I
now,
no,
I
I,
think
yeah,
that's
okay, all right. But just so the listeners who are keeping tally on how bad our predictions are, if it's a draw, we're considering it a win, so your prediction is correct because the logic stands is the other team didn't win, so therefore you're technically not wrong, and we're counting not wrong as right, rather than the other
it's
way
it's a
around.
very it's a very glass half full approach to it, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
I
just to
mean,
make ourselves look better.
we like to be positive in these scenarios. So yeah,
Yeah.
so this resulted in both or all of us getting it right. Um,
Yeah.
but hey, we still stand that we need to make a decision. We're not allowed to call the draw. We have to make a prediction of who we think is going to win. Um, but yes, Beagles leads. That was a bit of a fun game, wasn't it? That was on the live
Yeah.
stream. In fact, the MK Nighthawks game was also on the our live stream, I believe. But yeah, Beagles leads. That was such a weird game to play in because, from my perspective, from Leeds, um, we didn't necessarily have all the players there that we wanted. We had a few people drop out sort of last second due to illness. So we had to call up people from the twos. We had Frankie playing for us as well. So this was all sort of stuff that happened leading up to this. And Beagles undefeated going into this. No reason to think that it's just sort of fixture fulfillment. It's one of the best team speeches I've ever had from a captain was when I was playing hockey and we were bottom of the table and we were playing top of the table, and the captain just looked and said, "Look, Saturday afternoon, we're going for a pint after this match. It's fixture fulfillment. Let's just go have a good fun." We ended up beating them 5-2. Like we whooped their ass.
Brilliant.
It was great. So like I honestly felt like this is that kind of game where at least from when I was playing it, I had zero idea what the score was for the entirety of that match. I know people were telling me, but I just kept assuming, oh well, we'll throw it away soon. Like it'll be fine. Like we don't have a like chance in hell to win this. And that was sort of like at least the way that I was playing. I know the rest of the team didn't play like that because they were a bit more aware of the score. They played their game and they were aware of what they needed to do to keep in it. And essentially, like we were, I think it was we were 9-7 up. We let Beagles get to 11-9, and then we won the last minute set or whatever it was to tie it at 11 all. There was a call in this which, to be honest, like I didn't realize at the time, like I was too busy being powered by balls. But in the penultimate set, there was like a three ball throw on me, in which I ducked to avoid and got absolutely pummeled by all three balls. One of which did, however, pop up and get caught, which at the time was ruled not a catch because it was believed that a ball that I'd blocked, I'd let go of, and it bounced up. In hindsight, I should have remembered that I'd thrown my ball beforehand, and that was physically impossible. But I'd completely forgot because I sort of panicked at being thrown at by three balls. So yeah, that happened. So that catch was ruled out, and I got hit anyway. Um, would that have
Summary of
made
this match is you were completely out of it the whole way
Yeah,
through.
yeah, I was just like tripping the entire match. It was fine. And then at the end of it, it was just like, oh, we got a draw. That's nice. Like that was honestly the experience for me. So thanks team for keeping me in it. Like, keeping me alive and keeping the scoreboard ticking over. Very proud of the team for doing that. But on a serious note, I think like because of the changes we made to our team and what happened, we ended up being quite a dodge heavy team. We were quite difficult hits. And that really suited against playing against Eagles. If you can just dodge, like don't focus on don't focus on going for catches or trying to beat them with catches or anything like that. Just if you can stay alive and do that, just wait for them to make their mistakes and then pick them up. I think that's how we won, looking back, or not won, but like won those
Mm.
sets. It like looking back on it, we just picked up on mistakes. Like there were certain things that I saw, like there was one moment in the first half where I was on the wing and I knew like Marcus like on the wing, if what they were doing is if you released a pre-throw ball, they would instantly punish that player, which is like perfectly fine if you know you're going to be punished because then you can just set yourself up for a catch because it is a
Yeah.
instant they've thrown, I must throw, and therefore it is accurate, but like not necessarily the most powerful or anything like that. It is going to you because the objective is to hit you because you're going to be unawares because you're turning.
Yeah.
As a result, you know a ball's coming to you. If you can throw a ball away and do it safely in a pre-throw kind of manner, and try and get someone out, they'll be throwing a ball straight at you, and that is catchable. And I think
Yeah.
that happened a couple of times with our wingers once they figured that out, that they were releasing that. They also do this bizarre thing, and I've not seen any other team do this, right? If one of their wingers throws a single ball, on the track back, the center player runs to the winger and gives them a ball as they're tracking back. I've never seen this used tactically ever, but I feel like it is a hugely risky play, and I don't know why they do
Yeah.
it. I'd love to know the logic of it because everyone else, if one of the wingers has thrown a single ball, that's the middle player's responsibility to cover that player, while the other
Yeah.
winger who has the ball covers the middle player if that results in them having their back turn. In which case, like say we're sort of like this, and then the right hand player is thrown. The center player sort of aims that way and covers that way, and then this player ends up covering sort of like that angle. So you're sort of like you're sort of angled like that so you can cover what's going on. So if this player who's
Yeah.
thrown has been thrown at, center player covers them, gets the
Yeah.
trade,
You
and then
cover
player
each
throw,
other.
yeah, you sort of cover each other. But they were just like, no, I'm going to go give you the ball, and then you got
God.
two players very close to each other fumbling a ball, which if a
Yeah.
if you get thrown at and you fumble that ball, the referee's probably going to call double hit. Like
Yeah.
it's the most logical thing that you're probably going to see. So I don't know
Just
why they do it.
bounce the ball
Just bounce the
across if you
ball, or
really want to pass it out.
just get on your
Just
skates and
hold
get
it.
like haul ass back to the back line. Like I know you
Weird.
like Beagles are a fast team when they want to be. They can get back. They don't have any. I don't know why they do it. They can get back. Like this is not something that I would be putting as a major concern for Beagles, but this is just something they were doing, and they've done it in every match that I've seen so far. Very weird tactic, but
Brilliant.
yeah, that's
Right,
enough
let's
about
move
these
on
Beagles.
because
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried about time. But yeah,
Yes, yeah,
that's
we've been going on. But they did rebound. They beat Sheriffs 2 later, so fair play.
yeah,
Other than that, it was a lot of one-sided results
yeah.
throughout the match. Like,
Good day for worker bees.
yes, Colin would be proud. I'm sure he'd be
Yeah,
saying how well his boys have done and his team.
yeah.
So good on Worker Bees. I'm sorry I didn't get to really watch it. But
They played
well
well.
played.
They're coming together as a team, which is nice.
Oh,
It'll be interesting to see like which of those players get moved up into the ones and if that affects things. But that's always the case with twos squads. Is interesting to see the best players get moved away and break up that dynamic.
the secret
Table?
mud squad in the middle of in the middle of bees.
Yeah.
It's not very secret anymore. But yes, this is where we net out. Beagles are still at the top, even though they've now drawn. They are still undefeated, but drawn a match. Not 100% win record for their season. Very close behind with Spartans and Nighthawks as well. We haven't moved out of seventh. Bees slowly climbing that table after that start.
MK taking a pretty bad tumble there because they lost both their matches, right? So
Yeah,
that's
it's interesting because like Bees are fourth after their first game against Nighthawks, which they got absolutely slaughtered in. So the fact that there's only one, league point difference in it at the end, and I mean set difference, you can see the difference because there's 20 sets in it, but even though there's only one league point in it, it's yeah,
yeah.
impressive work from Worker Bees to get back up. Anyway, on to this weekend's matches. I'm just going to quickly come out and say I know that we talked about this earlier and somewhat disagreed. I want to say that a really good game and really important game to watch is Thunder Dodge versus Virtue Empire. Two bottom of the table teams needing to get some wins and get some results. Virtue have already beaten Sheriff's twos. If they can beat Thunder Dodge, they would be looking at potentially making themselves safe in eighth. Um, if things continue as they're going, if Sheriffs can make some other results happen elsewhere, because they've been incredibly close. Sheriffs have definitely improved massively in the last two league meets from their first league meet. So they've shown that they could definitely make some upsets elsewhere in the table, and if they can, that would really put Virtue in some pressure. So this is a big game for both Thunder Dodge and Virtue. If Thunder Dodge win it, I think it's kind of like it doesn't make much of an impact to Thunder Dodge, in my opinion. It's more of an impact to Virtue.
Yeah, agreed. I do think it's an important match. That's not the same as saying it's the match to catch, but it's an important match for both squads. I definitely think, as far as table goes, that's a good one to keep an eye out on, and scoreline wise, that's a good one to check back on to see how it affects everything. MK's matches, both of them, I'd say, are quite important for them just to stop tumbling. They need to win both those matches to really just slow down their fall and stay in contention. I remember which one's the match to catch this time around, so I'm going to avoid mentioning that one until we actually get to it.
But yeah, I think
Yeah,
Rangers 2 against Nighthawks, that's a pretty interesting game. I think
yeah,
Nighthawks will win that, but it could be an interesting one. I feel like every team in League One has just a completely different play style
yeah,
in terms of like how they like to play. Like Rangers 2 are similar-ish to MK, but they are even more just like harder throwing players than MK are. MK like that kind of like they are hard throwing and they do like their set play, but they do have some
yeah,
good dodges in it. Whereas Rangers are like solid throwing. They're a solidly throwing team. Like it's their accuracy is kind of nuts. Their tracking of players is pretty good. It's very good. So yeah, it's just interesting to see how they all fare because obviously MK drew to Nighthawks last time round. It'll be interesting how Rangers do against Nighthawks. I'm really curious about Leeds' game against MK. I think that could be a really interesting one, seeing as we are,
agreed. Yeah,
right next to each other in the tables. Again, Spartans 2 versus Bees 2 could also be a big game. Like
yeah,
I don't know what to predict with that one because it's like say Spartans 2 compared to Spartans ones, I feel like Spartans two like the chaos a little bit more. Like they are a bit more
Yes.
like jumping around, like they are annoyingly nimble and just love making catches all over the park. So like that's going to be a really interesting one. See how bees deal with that because I think bees could be opportunistic in it as long as they don't just start going, oh yeah, he's an easy hit 'cause he's not paying attention. I'm going to throw a single and then get caught. Like as long as they don't do stuff like that, that would be a really interesting game. Um,
Yeah.
but
Match to catch.
other than naming every single match,
I was going to say we've named pretty much everything except for the Beagles Virtue match, which I guess we've decided is not worth it.
it's just yeah. Having said that, Virtue, if you do beat Beagles, absolutely like
That would be so
the
good.
the
Please do
match
that.
the match of or the result of the season for that league, 100%.
Yeah. The
Right,
actual match to catch is Bedford v Bedford.
you good there? You're not having a stroke, are you?
Yeah. Bedford v Bedford. It's weirdly hard to say because of the b and the sounds.
Bedford versus Bedford.
Okay.
Otherwise
Now
known
that you
as
enunciate
Rangers.
it.
Rangers 2 versus Bedford Mighty Eagles. Let's go.
Eagles. Yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna stick my neck out first. I'm gonna
No,
go with
you
the
are.
no, go with Bevers go with Bevers again. We'll see what Bevers says. Old reliable, who's less reliable than a 50p coin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, surely that means if we vote against Bevers, we've got a higher chance of being correct.
At the moment, that's what the stats say. Um,
Yeah,
and for good measure, I'll just show Colin's prediction as well.
I agree. Bedford Eagles.
See, why is it our
I
match to catch if everyone's just gonna agree? Like, how boring is that?
that's that's not the match to catch is not the same as being the closest match of the day. It's the one that we think will be the most interesting to watch.
Justify your decision as to why the Bedford Derby is the most interesting game in this league, mate.
I think that they're both very exciting teams to watch. I think that when they come together and play against each other, then it makes for a very exciting match. I think it'll be a good match. I think Bedford Eagles will win. I think they're marginally the better team, but Rangers, we've said it before, as a club, they're emotional and they could end up just sort of getting on a high and running away with it. I think that makes them a really exciting club to watch in general. I really like watching Rangers. I I just do. I think they're a really fun club to watch. So I'm a little bit biased towards Rangers in the first place, and then the Eagles, Bedford Eagles, is an interesting matchup. Um, I like this match in the Women's League, so I hope I'll like it in Men's League One as well. I don't know how many excuses you want me to give for why I think this will be a good match. I just think it will be a really fun match to watch.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm just letting the public know this was not my match to catch. There were other games that I was interested in.
I suggested another one as well. Like
You
I
did,
think
you
we
did.
all suggested two, and there were a couple matches, but we just kind of went with this one in the end.
We all suggested two, and the only ones that were agreeing, you and Colin agreed that you'd vote for each other's one, but everyone ignored mine, so it was like, fine, okay. Um,
But you could have said Leeds and MK. I suggested Leeds and MK as well, and you
I
didn't.
mean, yeah, but then
You didn't back yourself.
you didn't agree with mine and Virtue and Thunderdog,
No, I
so
don't agree with that.
so there we go. I'm just gonna go for Rangers
You're wrong.
out of spite. No, it's like looking at the last season as well. This game is actually really interesting because Rangers won one, and I think Mighty Eagles won the other last season. I think that's how it went. But Rangers did really well against Bedford Mighty Eagles. Rangers might have even won both of them. I cannot remember. Um, but I honestly, yeah, like Dodgeball has this weird effect of in derbies, like because so much of it's a mental game, it really affects like teams' ability. Like the Carmarthen Ronda game is a prime example of that in League
Should
Two.
not be as competitive as it
It should
is.
not be. Like looking at the stats, Ronda should flip and walk it every time, and it's just not that straightforward. It's the same with this, right? Like Rangers are like a mid-table side, and Beagles are undefeated at the moment. Like it should be straightforward. Beagles win. I'm predicting an upset that
And it will
to
be.
me isn't an upset because it's just the Rangers Eagles derby. It's just who knows
Yeah.
what's going to happen. It cannot result in a draw. It will not happen. It will not like I don't
No.
see that happening at all. A team will come out. victorious, I I do have a strong gut feeling it is Rangers this time. So I'm gonna
This is why it's the match to catch. This is also why you've got the lowest success rate out of me, Colin, and you.
Well, I realized that you two have like strayed enough from what I predicted so far earlier, so I'm like, yeah, I can justify going for a bit of an out there prediction.
No,
But
I
like I said,
agree. And I think you could be right for those exact reasons. I do think that Rangers could just sort of get the win the sort of mental game, as it were, and therefore win the actual game as a result. I can absolutely see that happening. So good luck.
yeah,
Please put
we'll
on a
see.
good game.
Yeah. Right. Next league. And we'll wrap
Men's
things up
League
even
2.
quicker. Men's
I was
League
going to say
2.
it accelerates now as we descend further into the bits that we don't know anything about.
Yeah. Well, having said that, I do know a fair bit about. I remember
Yeah.
more about
Men's
what
League 2, I
happened
feel like
in
I know.
Men's League Two than I did about the other ones because I spoke to people about this league to understand what happened, and it was yeah, like it's good to get that information from them, and I'm more likely to remember when I've spoken to people than I am to have like sat down and watched the game myself because I just sort of go into like I'm watching dodgeball mode. That was a
Yeah.
really cool play. What's the score again? Oh
Yeah,
no, I forgot. Like that kind of like the con
yeah.
like God, like watching dodgeball. Sometimes you just gotta have like a real big brain to watch it because like there's oh wow, that was a really cool play, but also the context of what's going on. Like if a really sick catch was made, is that like going to bring it back to even, or like does that swing the
Yeah.
set round? And then if it swung the set round, was that team down in like the actual score? And like how long's left in the match? Like how big is
It's
this
too
moment? It's
complicated.
too
It's
complex.
too
So
complicated.
like so some of us me I definitely watch it and go oh wow that was really cool wow 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 and like that's all my brain
Yeah.
can handle like the rest of it's like oh that was actually kind of insignificant like that's the most gutting thing when you see someone make an epic catch and it's like you still lost the set and you got hammered so no one cares but a
But it was
really good
so
catch
cool.
yeah um that's what dodgeball highlights are
Right.
for because you don't see the scores in it so but yeah, so Carmarthen Storm 3, big result for Carmarthen, I feel, because Storm 3s have definitely been looking strong this year. Um, and to get that result is like pretty damn good. And I think having spoken to some of the Storm players, they feel like they didn't necessarily play as well as they should. They let Carmarthen come away with it more than needed. But I think that might just be Storm underestimating the ability of Carmarthen at times. Like they have a really solid team and a lot of players with some really good ability. So yeah, definitely feel like that was a good result for them. Um, elsewhere in the league, Wessex Wolves 2 against Phantoms 2, coming away with a draw. I think Wessex will be pretty happy with that. Similarly, with losing by only 2 sets to Silverbacks, who are they've been wanting someone to mention that they're currently undefeated in the league as well. Yes, congratulations. Therefore we have announced it. Can you just go on and carry on
We did
playing?
it. Stop,
Yeah,
stop
good,
asking
good,
us.
good, good job. Good job. Pat on the back. Um, so yeah, that's I think Wessex after a bit of a rough start, losing to 20-0 to Raptors, have really like pulled it around and pulled out some good results in the end. So good on Wessex too for really like showing some teamwork to get it back together. Other than that, oh yeah, Storm Ronda that also ended in like basically the last set was the deciding set from what I understand, and Ronda won
Mm.
it. It was decided by the second set. So if I'm wrong, don't at me. It's not my fault for getting my
It
facts
is.
wrong. No,
If
no.
it's wrong, please directly message our Instagram page with every single error that Nick has made in this episode, including the ones in the tables. Every single graphic, we'd like to know the errors in those as well. We just want to
But
keep
I'll
Nick on
limit.
his
I'll
toes.
limit to you can only submit one per person.
No.
Everyone, because that's all that everyone's been doing so far. Is like, oh, you've made a mistake. Oh, you've made a mistake. And it's like, yes, but you've missed all these other ones. Like, if you're going to be picky consistently. um, but yeah, no. So I think that's how that Storm Ronda game goes, which I think really shows. Like I said, well, when we were discussing that game, because it was our match to catch last time.
Yeah.
Like I think you and Colin were pretty confident that Ronda would win this, and like I said, and from what I understand, this kind of what happened is if they could survive Ronda's quick start, They were
Yeah,
really in with a chance of winning the sets, and that seems to have been what happened when I've spoken to them. Is it really came down to if they could survive that those first 30 seconds, which probably explains why Ronda won that 60-second set at the end, right? Is that you've only
yeah,
got 60 seconds to make it count. It's all full go. It's all basically if you get a good start after a quick start, you can win the set from there. So that's basically it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the return fixture of that because Storm 3 definitely deserve to be up there with Silverbacks and Ronda and really fighting it out for the top spot.
yeah. Look at the table.
Yours. Make sure I click on the right things. Um, yeah, not much change. Only
No movement.
only Derby and Wessex doing the. Is it the Do-si Do? I can't remember what it's called.
What?
I think there's an old English dance. Someone out there is going to know what to. Kath, this is your turn to like do me a favor after like I failed you out of a couple. Like, can you remind me what that song is that I'm talking about? Yeah,
Cass references are all pop culture, and I sit there and go, even I know this. This is like a weirdly niche historical thing. I don't think this is equivalent.
I mean, if Kath gets it,
It'll
then
be it'll be Emily that messages you. Emily's got good at this kind of nonsense.
right at dodgeball people who listen to this podcast. Can someone tell me what I'm
English
talking about?
dodgeball people
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah. Like yeah. So basically, they've just swapped places. I think again.
Yeah.
Because yeah, Phantoms are on the up, and yeah, this is one of those teams that have got a 2-2-2 all the way through their board. So no, it's an interesting table because like, obviously Raptors
I
were
was
pushing
just about to say that.
were pushing the top last time. You've now got Mustangs that have found their way in the way of them, and again like Storm 3 as well, also being um, in the mix, showing why they probably shouldn't have been demoted from League One. But really, really interesting league. Carmarthen I feel bad for them being in eighth. They deserve better
Yeah, they
than
don't
that.
have that.
Right,
Yeah. But they're
imagine
close.
being on,
They're only a point behind.
like, I need to check that actually. Is that true? Are they actually on four? Yes, they are on two more losses than they have wins, and yet they are still on a positive four set difference. That is not made up. That is actually their set difference. They have
They're on the
lost
same set
four
difference as
games.
Derby.
They're on four, like positive four, and
That's
they've
brilliant.
lost four games. Like that's kind of nuts. So well played, Wizards. That is some genuine magic right there.
Wow.
Yeah, here all night. Right.
I hope not.
I will be. I've got to edit this after.
It's already 11 o'clock.
Oh, oh yeah. You're in Switzerland. That's fine. It's 10 o'clock here. I was like, oh shit, is it really? Um, right. This weekend's games. I keep forgetting how much purple there is in this league.
Yeah.
Um,
Purple and blue, which kind of just looks like purple anyway.
yeah, I guess.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean,
I know what
right?
you
Like
mean.
you look at it initially and you're like, this is all just red and purpley blue.
Yeah, well, it's just like raptors stick out like a sore thumb. That's all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that Thunderdodge are getting new kit soon. That would be exciting. And Carmarthen have got their new kit on order as well. There's new kit
Yeah.
coming. It's exciting
New
times.
kit, new kit, new kit.
Exciting times. This is what we look forward to in Dodgeball.
Bees played in their new kit last meet as well. We didn't mention that yet.
What you mean the
Uh,
Dogdable?
the Dodgeball kit.
The Dogdable kit. If you didn't
They're getting replacement kits. It's fine.
if you didn't notice, I encourage everyone to just ask it like while you're watching these players line up on court, just like pay attention to the back of the shirt.
Just stare at their asses really, really carefully
It's
because
okay
it's
if
very
somebody says it.
obvious.
I'm not saying that. But yeah, new kits. It's exciting. Unless you're Wessex because you copied Sheriffs. Sheriffs? Sheffield.
Sheriffs
Sheffield. I don't know why. I
showing
always
up
get
next week
every
wearing
time.
green.
I keep saying bloody Sheriffs instead of Sheffield. It really annoys me. I don't know why. Sheffield, you should have just been called Sheffield Sheriffs. That would have made so much more
Yeah.
sense. Anyway, back to Dodgeball and this and League Two. Um,
Evening session.
Evening, indeed. Storm threes, I think you should be looking for some comfortable wins after a tough few games last time. If you make it, like net zero like you did last time, you definitely had a bad day for Storm 3. Just putting it out there. Silverbacks versus Ronda is a big game.
Yeah,
The
I'm just looking at.
two undefeated sides um, will no longer have a 100% win record after this meet.
That's a good way of phrasing it. We've learnt our lesson after the Leeds Wessex one. We're not going to say one of them will have a loss on their record at all.
Yep. Um, so yeah, but other than that, like yeah, Carmarthen versus Wessex Wolves, Mustangs versus Wessex Wolves, they could be some interesting games.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, should
quite
just
a
go on
run
to
of the mill meet this one for
right. It's
those two.
just a standard meet of like people playing each other.
Yeah,
That's kind of how
just
it
a
goes.
week full of dodgeball.
Wait for the dodgeball. All right, let's. You see, this is what happens when we don't have Colin here. Like it just all goes to pot. Sorry, guys.
You think Colin would have anything to say about Men's League One that two that we haven't really said?
Definitely, definitely. At least at least he'll be more funny in his predictions than we are.
It would. He'd have sung Mustang Sally by now.
Oh yeah, he would have
Men's
actually
League
because
Two? Yeah,
Mustangs have appeared. That is true.
exactly.
I'm going to do the same as I did last time and bring up the Bevers and Columns prediction.
Because you're
Uh,
too scared to do
because
yours first.
I'm too scared.
Coward.
God. So yeah, do you
Yeah.
want to say what the game
But
is?
the match, sorry, I was just distracted by the graphics. Yeah, Carmarthen against Wessex with Bevers saying that Carmarthen is going to win and Colm saying Carmarthen's going to win. And annoyingly, I agree, Carmarthen deserves to win. We just talked about how good their set difference is, how well they've been playing. I feel like this is a match that they can win. And that it would mean a lot to that team to actually finally get another win on the board after the last few meets. So yeah, I think it will be Wizards. I think they'll win. Wizards against Wolves. Oh, W. Sorry. Yeah. It's 11.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is the
I've
content you
been
get.
up since 7 in the morning. Yeah, Wizards.
Um, yeah, I mean so whenever we've predicted, all four of us have predicted, uh, you know, a winner, that person has won so far. Um,
But now Wizards are going to fuck us over.
yeah, for the thing is, like Wessex have been played well. They've got they've had some solid results this
Mm.
season, so they definitely have the ability to beat Wizards. I just think Wizards like they're worse off in the table because of the matches they've played,
Yes.
obviously, but like because they've had tougher games. I feel like than Wessex, and I think that's where I think Wizards can get a win here. Um,
Yeah. That's the long and short of it, is that we think that Wizards are a very good team and that they deserve to be higher up in the table than they are. Wessex are similar in the table, right, to them. They're roughly the same
yeah,
spot, but that doesn't. It's basically a match of being in the same spot in the table does not mean that you're equivalent teams, and that's why we think Wizards will be better. But they could also, they are in the same spot in the table. They could actually be very much equivalent teams, and it could be a very tight match, especially if we have kind of seen Wizards throw away a couple sets here and there that they
should have
didn't
won.
need to. So yeah,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
it could be that.
yeah, I mean, this is not to say that Wessex Two is a bad team at all. It's just, yeah, I just think
No,
Wizards are un not underperforming, but like the table doesn't represent where they should be.
yeah,
Um, but hey, on to the final league. So
thank God.
yes, we are boycotting. No, we can't boycott it because it just doesn't exist. There is no Men's League 3 this season or this week, so there is a Men's League season.
They've cancelled
Cancelling
it.
it. You heard it here first. So we're on to Men's League 4 instead. Not much to say about this. Thank you. Well, another thank you to everyone who sent in like video for us to watch. Whilst like we've been a little bit busy, so we haven't actually sat down, or at least I haven't sat down to watch it. Maybe Colin's watching it now that he's in bed or
He's
curled up.
sick. I think
Yeah.
he's asleep in a coma.
I mean that you could be doing that as well, but yeah, I mean some not really much to say on these results because I just feel like the teams that are winning are the teams that deserve to be at the top of the table, and the teams that are losing are probably the teams that belong in League Four anyway at this point. Like it's
Mm.
a little bit more interesting than League Three, but not much more interesting. Um,
It's a development league, so I think the thing with a development league is that at the start of the season probably isn't going to be that interesting because it will fall pretty much how you expect it to. As the season goes on, as players develop, will that then change the look of the table? And you know that whole sort of thing with dodgeball where it's you get learning curves, very very strong learning curves where you go from being you're fine. Oh, throwing has clicked, and then
yeah,
you're fine. Oh, catching has clicked. You know that kind of thing.
yeah. I think
As that happens for each player in each team, then that might affect the table a bit more. But I don't think we're at that stage in the league yet where really there's been that much development. We've only been playing for a couple months now, so.
yeah. I mean, so obviously this is only their second meet as well. I think what surprises me is I'll just go straight to the table because there's not much to talk about directly about the results. Um, but what gets me is Essex's performance so far, like being at the top of the table. I don't think they've played Spartans 3 yet, because that will be a good game when that comes around. But like having 4 wins with a good set difference is to me quite impressive for a first team that's come straight of, out of nowhere, really. I know they've
Mm.
been playing in the Southwest a bit, but um, Brayford have players that played at Sheriffs, and obviously Lincoln's a great university for dodgeball as well. So they've had some good, strong talent coming out of that. So they're not, you know, um, they know how to play competitive dodgeball. Same with Silverbacks 3. I know they do some pretty good training as well. They've got local rivals as well that they can train against. And Mustangs just have an endless resource of insanely good kids that just keep coming through and playing really well. So, and then Chippenham as well have been hidden away quietly playing in the Southwest, doing well.
Mm.
But again, like another team that have kind of exceeded my expectations so far. Again, after um, this, it's kind of hard to say. I've just realised that there are one loss
Yeah, the
missing.
two ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want again. I'm waiting very politely for you to finish your sentence before I
I'm
interrupt, but
thinking
you
them
are
now.
eventually working your way to it.
You can see that I definitely hurriedly put these together. Um, but so it's at the moment for audio listeners, like Essex and Spartans are at the top, and then there's 4 teams that are all on 2 wins and 2 losses, um, and Chippenham is in that group. The fact that Essex are sort of like clear at the top at the moment, with Spartans, that surprises me, but that's about all I have to say at the moment. We'll have to see what happens after
Surprises
this
me
week.
that they're that clear, that
Yeah,
it's that much of a delineation. But you know, it's not everyone's played each other yet, so I don't know how indicative that is of how the end of the season is going to look. It wouldn't surprise me to see both Essex and Spartans going up to League Three next season.
yeah,
That
that
would
would make
track.
sense. It'll be interesting to see
But
what
I also
happens.
wouldn't be surprised to see Chippenham or Silverbacks actually. Silverbacks, as low as they are on that table, I could see them definitely climbing back up. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, for
it's
the
too
listeners,
early in the season to call anything.
yeah, no, and yeah, definitely. It's just going to be interesting because we don't know what's going to happen with League Three next year, right? Do
Yeah,
you get promoted or is it going to split into regions? What's going to happen? Um,
yeah,
like, yeah, I don't know what British Dodgeball are going to do. Like, personally, like the ideal scenario for me is that you have 3 men's and 3 women's leagues at St George's Park, and then anything outside of that is split north south. But realistically, that's not how it's going to work based on the number of players we've got, and the number of teams we've got in each
yeah.
category. So let's see how it goes. Um, Matches this weekend. So Essex do finally play Spartans threes. So that'll be a good game to go watch. Um, Interestingly, not a match to catch, but I probably had a bit to say in that because I was a bit selfish. But yeah, so that Essex game, that'll be a good one to see the result of. And I will actually make the effort to watch that video before we next. That'll be a nice little Christmas present to myself, is I'll watch the Essex Spartans 3 game and see what happens. So yeah, please
Yeah.
keep sending in the links to it.
I
So
think
yeah,
Silverbacks Chippenham could be a really good match. They're
true.
even currently in the table. They're just separated by point difference, so I
Same
think that could be a really interesting one.
same with Silverbacks and Brayford.
Yeah,
It'll be
no, it's
interesting.
a big meet for Silverbacks.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, anyway, because Nick is selfish, is the only way to put it. Uh,
Because
uh,
Nick's selfish, we've fucked over Coventry and we've picked Leeds
yep.
instead.
So our match to catch is going to be Mustangs 3 versus Leeds at Barnhouse.
Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, reason being is that they're both at the bottom of the table looking for a win. Um,
Yeah.
they're both teams that could definitely like this is the thing about League Four is it's not that it's lacking of ability. Like there is definitely like talent in those. Like I know looking at the Barnhouse that like individual players they can play pretty well. Um, but yeah, it's just like there's just so many new teams and some people who have been waiting to enter National League for a while. Um,
Yeah.
that yeah they're just maybe a bit outgunned. Um, so
I'm
yeah,
gonna call it. It's Mustangs. We're gonna win this one. And I'm saying that 50% to piss off Nick, and 50% because I genuinely believe it, because I think, like you said, Leeds have a really talented crop of players, but I don't think they've necessarily gelled yet as a team, and I don't think that's any fault of the players. I think that's just because you've mentioned already Leeds' first team have had a lot of like movement around there, and Leeds in general hasn't quite settled, I don't think, as a club. Um, Whereas Mustangs have that kind of history. They've played together for a while at this point, I feel like, I think. So I would say that might be the winning factor here. If the players are all relatively equivalent to each other, it'll come down to team dynamics. So, ooh, Nick.
Aiden's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
I try not to let color bias get in the way of my prediction here. Like, um, as much as I wanted to vote for Leeds to beat the Wessex Women's, I also felt like the Wessex maybe could have done a better job. But anyway, um,
I thought Wessex were going to win that one, to be honest. So,
yeah, yeah, I did too, to be perfectly honest. Wessex, but I really wanted Leeds to win. Like the absolute belief I had that Leeds could have done it. Anyway, we're not talking about Wessex and Leeds. We're talking about
no.
Mustangs and Leeds. Um, yeah, it's just down to I think we've got like a lot of new players that are coming in and availability. Like it's our second team, I think, is mostly uni players like that have come through. So we've got some Leeds players playing for us, and we've got some York players playing for us, and a few people that have got a lot of experience to sort of lead the way. Um, we're not going to have that much support this Saturday because everyone's going to be waiting to go down to National League, or at least the women's and the men's are. They're not going to probably dedicate 2 days of dodgeball. Um, so yeah, it's going to be, I think, a little bit of a tough time, but I think it will actually be a good game. It'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see what the final result is, and hear back from Aidan on how he thinks the club's done and the team's done. But yeah, not much else to say on that one.
That's
But yeah,
it. Yeah.
cool. We made it through
What an
six.
anticlimax to end
Oh,
on.
I know. Well, the thing is so for reference, we wanted to do this in two separate episodes because we did
Yeah.
have a hell of a lot to say on a lot of the other games. But I'm looking at the recording at the moment. We're at 2 hours, 20 minutes on the recording.
Yeah.
Pretty standard for us, and we've had to like cut stuff out. And it helped that I forgot so much about what I'd watched. So
Yeah.
that
Honestly.
that genuinely like, but it we
If we'd
will.
done this last week, I could have talked for hours.
Oh yeah, and
It
if
was
we
really
if
good
we
meat.
yeah, and if we'd done it that way as well, I would have talked endlessly about uni as well. Because like
Yeah.
I've now been to what two Bucks League meets, and I've been to a Bucks Open, or not Bucks Open, but a Uni Open, mixed Open. It was really great to see some of the game. Like yeah, let me change the scene and then we can actually talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I could go on. I will try and get round to like organizing a uni episode. Um, like at some point. I know Zoe's like, maybe
There's no, I'm not making a face at that. I'm making a face at the give it a like.
give it a like and and a subscribe. Yeah. This is actually replicated from like the
I know.
it's the same it's the same one from
Same
the
error.
Euros. I haven't changed it. Ah,
like
anyway,
yeah, university. No,
yeah.
I was thinking that as well. I was trying to think of what I was going to say on this
We
slide
want to
and
we
as far
want to
as like
do it we
shout
want to do it
outs.
right. We want to do it right in
Yeah.
the sense that we want to try and cover it in terms of have people talking about it that have watched it or have seen what's going on. I've only been able to watch Northern leagues. I've only been able to be at the mixed Northern leagues. So we might be talking to a few people about some of the other Bucks leagues to try and get an idea of what's been going on and
Yeah.
get some feedback back on that. And like the only real thing that I've taken away from it is that honestly, like um, women's dodgeball is going to grow massively in the next few years. Like looking at how many women's uni teams there are, like how much fun they all seem to be having. Um,
And
like
they're all so fucking good. Like it's so scary seeing some of the uni girls now when they come to National League and just being like, how the hell are you this good? I was not that good when I was a year into dodgeball, 2 years of dodgeball. Like my first year of dodgeball, I played three ball. So my second year of dodgeball, I was absolute crap because I was playing five ball and I didn't know how. I didn't throw a ball until my second year. Like how are people good at dodgeball this
yeah,
soon, this quick? Yeah.
and that was really fun about watching the mix as well. Is just like how well these teams gelled. Like it's
Mm.
just it's really exciting to see. Like I've been like my enthusiasm has been quenched by Zoe and Colin. They're just like Nick, you can't just solely
Not
talk
yet.
about uni. Not yet. Like
Come.
let's focus on National League. But I do want to get there because honestly, I understand
Mm.
like we were uni students at one point. I love listening to people talk about National League and stuff like that, but it seems sort of irrelevant when I've got my own league that I was playing in that was
Yeah.
completely different. So I understand that you probably want some Bucks content. We'll try and get around to it, but we want to do it, like I said, properly.
I thought of something that I forgot to mention at the start, as far as like updates from Dodgeball. Regional leagues finished, so that I'm thinking of it because of the number of university teams that are playing in regional leagues at the moment. I think is one of those really good things for university teams to play in those regional leagues, get that mm, like community dodgeball experience, and kind of get used to that style. So that way, when you do eventually, make the jump and join a community club, it doesn't completely catch you out. Like you're playing, it's not necessarily even that much higher of a standard. It is in some cases, but it depends on what league you're in. But it's just a different style of dodgeball. You're playing against people who have played for longer and who are more settled in their style and who are the same team-ish, more frequently the same people. Whereas university is a lot more just sort of like, who the fuck can we convince to come along to play this week? Like, how am I going to convince my mates to join? Do we grab the people who just play socially, like the drinkers in the club? Like, all those dynamics that are very, very university specific, kind of go away at community level. So it's really nice to see that many university teams playing and doing well, competing well in regional, even if
Yeah.
the actual like podium spots are still very much going towards community clubs at the moment.
I mean, like even the community clubs putting out second teams and stuff. Like so, just to because I've got it here, I might as well say. So, the Northeast Regional League was won by Mavericks two. They finished first, and the Mavericks ones finished third. I imagine that was a mixed ability split.
Yeah.
But even then, you had York and Sheffield Hallam showing up in that league, and York finished second. So well done to them. The West Midlands League, you had Silverbacks winning, but then you also had Birmingham Lions and two Muds teams showing up in that one as well. How the hell Manchester Bees end up in West Midlands, I will never know. Um, Southwest Regional, Wessex won, but then you had some of the Southwest teams that we haven't really seen before. So like Berkshire Royals. I hope I said that correctly.
I
I,
have no idea.
it's spelled Berkshire,
Where
and
the
I
fuck is
have
Berkshire?
it's Reading. It's basically Reading. Like I have family who live there, so they're probably gonna have a go if I get it wrong. But anyway, Berkshire came second. So then you also had like other teams like Chippenham, Trowbridge, Dartmoor turning up, and then Bristol in eighth. I don't know if Bristol have turned up to a league meet yet for Bucks. But anyway, um, so Imperial came first, like well done to them in the Southeast one. An insane number of London teams as expected, but then Essex were there as well. PB Dodgeball and Surrey were there as well. So yeah, just a shout out to just so people are aware, we know there are other clubs that are coming up, and it's just great to see that other clubs are getting involved, and we hope to see you in nationals at some point as well. And some of those players that are playing in the uni league that obviously can't get enough of bucks and want to be playing regional as well. If you if you don't have if you have enough time in between studying and playing for your club in everything, go find a local community club because I'm sure they would love the extra people there. But yeah, um,
Otherwise, it's a time-honored tradition to completely shaft your degree to go play more dodgeball. So do that.
it's also yeah that and like deciding completely on your career based on location of dodgeball clubs as well. None of us have ever done that, right?
I've never chosen a master's degree based on, dodgeball clubs in the area. I would never do that.
No,
That would be
we
ridiculous.
would definitely not recommend doing that at all. Like, I mean, no, not at all. Anyway, um,
Thanks for watching.
thanks for
Give it
watching.
a like.
Give a like, um, and subscribe. Give us a star review if you can on any of the if you're listening
Mhm.
to us. Really appreciate it. It's really cool to see how you guys are responding to it and whether you like us or not and what we're saying. And what we're trying to do for Dodgeball. Woo! But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great to see the subscribers coming in and stuff like that. So go follow us on Instagram as well. Zoe does her memeage on there, and you'll also see
Occasionally.
all the errors that Nick puts up on all the graphics that he makes in a rush when he's half asleep.
Yeah.
Um, they'll be going up tomorrow anyway. And we do put the Bucks League results up there as well, so keep an
A
eye out for
lot of
that.
results.
Lots
It's a
of
good
lots of
good
lots of
source
stuff.
of results.
Yes. But anyway, take care and see you on Sunday.